Good evening. Welcome. At this time, I'm going to recognize Reverend Thomas Cotton of the Cornerstone Church of God for our invocation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to give honor to Chairman Councilman Frankie Waters and all other county commissioners and county government officials and staff and all other guests that is in attendance this evening. I would like to say thank you for the privilege and honor for the opportunity to provide the opening prayer for this council and business session. I will be praying in my faith, and I invite you and welcome you to pray in yours. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this time, this moment, and this season, God. And God, as we go forth in today's business session, God, we invite you into this session, God. And God, we ask, God, that you would give us wisdom, that you would give clarity and revelation that is needed to lead this great county, God. And so, God, we're asking for fairness, God. We're asking for equality. And we're asking, God, that you would do things in the will and in the way in which you would like things to happen. And we invite your glory into this place. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Reverend Cotton. At this time, I'll call our December Board of Commissioners to order. At this time, we'll stand and we'll have the pledge led by Commissioner Walker.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I will ask the commissioners if any of our commissioner has a conflict of interest with any agenda item tonight. Hearing or seeing none, we'll move to approve the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of tonight's agenda, raise your right hand. Thank you. This time I'll turn it over to Katie for the election of the chairman and the vice chairman.
Good evening, gentlemen. As with every year in December, I receive nominations for the chairmanship, and we're going to do the chairmanship first. Open the floor for nominations.
I motion that Frankie Waters return as chair.
Anyone else?
I move that Stan Detheridge be the chairman.
Anyone else? All those in favor for Commissioner Waters for chairman, please raise your hand. All those for Stan Detheridge? Commissioner Waters, you're chairman again. We'll move on to the vice chairman nominations. Open the floor for nominations.
Madam Clerk, I nominate Jerry Langley.
Okay, Madam Clerk. In an infinitesimal attempt to break up the center-left coalition. My attempt to break up the center-left coalition, which all begins and ends with the vice chairman, I would like to nominate 27-year Commissioner Hood Richardson.
Are there any other nominations? All those voting for Commissioner Langley, please raise your hand. All those for Commissioner Richardson? Chairman, would you like to change the seating or keep it as arranged?
All right, we're going to make a change. Randy, Hood, swap.
Seats all warm.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Heavy voting like a Republican, of course, all over with.
Thank you very much. We're done for the items for presentation. Dolores?
I definitely don't want this. Oh, come on.
She's got it. She's got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We have some Beaufort County employees tonight that I'd like to acknowledge for their service to the county. We have Ms. Nancy Hill from the Department of Social Services with 5 years of service. Next, we have Ms. Gertrude McCrae from the Sheriff's Office at the jail, who has 10 years of service. And not attending tonight, we have Joseph Colabada with the Sheriff's Office, who actually has 20 years of service with the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have our public comment, and we have two speakers. The first one is Earl Carney.
I appeared before you folks last month. I had two issues that I thought needed your attention. One of those dealt with the website, the Department of Transportation, where I had to change my address due to the county reconfiguring the numbers of the homes out there where I lived. They did that. And so I had to go on the website, the Department of Transportation, to change my driver's license. That didn't work to start with. After I came up here to talk to you folks, it did get changed, and I want to thank you for that. But the other issue, and I don't know how you folks handle these things that are brought to you by citizens like myself up here tonight. I ask that somebody take a look at the transportation to and from the hospital. My wife is 82 years old and had to have surgery. I live in a house on pilings. The county emergency system that's designed to transport patients, they take them to the hospital. If you want to get out of there and get back home, you got to get your own transportation. And it took us more than 12 hours. Now, I'm regurgitating what I told you last month. Now, to get out of there, it took 13 hours. My wife's 82 years old, and she was still sick, okay? I know that I can't be the only person in this county that has had this experience. And my request here tonight is, did you people look at this? Did you discuss it? If so, what was your conclusion? Why can't we have the EMTs? Now, she got out of there after 13 hours. Chocowinity sent a vehicle up there and took her home. And I helped them get her up, living on pilings, I helped them get her up the steps. I couldn't take her home in my car because I couldn't get her in there by myself. So, how do we solve that problem? I can't be the only one around here that's had that. And let me tell you, if you live long enough, you'll get old. And when you do, you need all the help you can get. And this is a serious issue. I can't tell you what it's like to spend 13 hours up there in that place and them calling and can't get you out. That's insane. So, did you folks discuss the issue that I presented to you last month? If so, what was your conclusion? Or did you just ignore it? That's a question.
This is your opportunity to talk to us. This is not a dialogue during the public comments.
Well, how do I get an answer then? You ignored it.
You will
for
get
30 days.
you will get an answer.
Well, bless your heart. I want you to know that I appreciate it.
You'll get an answer.
And I'm sure that when the next election comes, we can address these issues at that appropriate time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next one is Patricia Garrison.
Good evening. There's two issues I would like to bring to the forefront tonight. First, issue number one that was discussed at the meeting in November, the trash dump site at the Ransomville-Sydney Crossroads area continues to be in poor condition. This site, being on the outskirts of the county, has received no updates, no remodeling, no work done to it. The waste disposal sites in the Washington area otherwise, that's in the county seat, three of them have been either improved or in the process of improvements. The tax-paying citizens in the area of the Ransomville-Sydney Crossroads area should have a site that the waste disposal bins are not full on Sunday and Monday, and are not full the day or days following a holiday. 85-year-old citizens should not have to climb steps to place household trash in a dumpster. When that 85-year-old citizen falls down steps, I hope she or he sues, and I hope they win. Issue number two. The county commissioners voted against refunding $5 million to the taxpayers. This would have been a refund that the taxpayers deserve and should have been granted. $5 million instead was placed in capital improvement to ensure that it could not be paid back to the taxpayers. Since this money is in capital improvement, is it going to be used as part of the $10 million school fund that they're asking for matched funds for a proposed new school? Or are you going to take an additional $10 million and put it in the capital improvement fund for a school that we may not need? Need being the key word. Please use my money wisely. Fiscal responsibility does not mean spending money just because you have it.
Thank you. At this time, we have Representative Keith Kidwell. I'm assuming you have some comments. Representative Kidwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good to be with you here this evening. Sorry I've not been here in some time, but somebody keeps sending me to Raleigh, so it's been a little bit busy. A couple topics before I get into the money and dollars that we're looking at on the budget. I did want to talk about Metro Aviation, which is occupying one of our new hangars out at the airport. They've doubled the capacity for helicopter repair at that facility. Metro is also considering expanding out into the largest of the new hangars that we built there. So that may be some additional jobs that are coming into the airport through the very first entity that's bringing employment there, or additional jobs to that location. Another issue that's been brought to my attention, and Mr. Chairman, I believe I've sent this on to you once or twice, is a speed limit on the canal on the southern side of the river. I believe it's called the Fountain Powerboat Canal system back in there. That they're getting a lot of wash away in that canal system at people's homes, and they're asking for a no-wake zone in there. If you could have whatever method you all use to look at that, to solve that issue over in that section, I'd appreciate that.
You're talking about on the south side of Richards?
Yeah, it's down by Witchards Beach. It's where the Fountain Power boats go in and out, that section. There's a canal in there. Evidently, some people don't realize you shouldn't run that fast in the canals. So I've had a couple of constituents to contact me to ask if we could look at that, and I tell them, you know, it's county commissioner's purview, not mine.
Is that not controlled by, Brian, isn't that North Carolina Wildlife Commission? Are they in control?
We would make a request to them to study it, so, yes, sir.
Yeah, that was my understanding. So thank you very much for that. If you could look into that, I'd appreciate it. The other item I have, which is some real good news for the citizens of Beaufort County. Eastern North Carolina is going to see about, I want to say it's very close to $100 million in this last budget that we've done. Our fire departments here, I'm going to just run through a brief, and not a total list, just a brief summary of some of the monies that are going to be coming in. Blunt's Creek Volunteer Fire Department, $750,000 to buy equipment. We have a grant to the Aurora Fossil Museum, $100,000. We looked at that. That does provide some return on investment in the fact that we bring people to visit our area. So that was something we were interested in pursuing. There's money for Pantego Volunteer Fire Department and Sydney Volunteer Fire Department, $125,000 respectively. I'm sorry, $250,000 to Sydney, and then another $13.5 million going into the airport. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can better utilize what we're doing out at the airport here. We just put in a internet system out there that is actually more internet bandwidth than the city of Wilson has. I want to see how we share that to the citizens of Beaufort County as a whole, since that service is there. So that's something we're going to need to have somebody from county. I don't know if the manager would be appropriate, if there's another designee that would need to look into that with us to see how we can utilize that for the rest of the citizens and businesses of the area. We know we can reach the schools right in the general area. We know we can reach the hospital very easily. So if we could get somebody to participate in that, it'd be helpful. We will have a meeting this Thursday. Myself and Senator Perry are going to go out there for an update on what's going on with the airfield and what we can do to move along some of the projects that we have there, what else the state needs to do, and it'd probably be helpful at this point if we start looking at what we can do with the county. It's going to result in additional services for the people in the area. It's also going to result in numerous additional jobs as we move forward. And I think with that, that's about it for my summary. I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Anyone have a question of Representative Kidwell?
Seeing none, thank you all very much. I appreciate it, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you. All right, the next item is the items for consent. One comment, I'm looking for, number 4, the Aurora Solid Waste Collection Site. In the lease, it called for a 3-year term, and that's been corrected to a 2-year term to correspond with our contract with Republic. So,
Motion to approve the consent items.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I have items 8 and 9 I would like to pull
All right.
for some additional information.
Any other ones to be pulled?
Mr. Chairman, item 9 needs to be pulled anyway. That's the item for the abandonment for Nutrien. We were going to pull that one anyway and ask that be done with the board's pleasure. We got a water line that cuts across there, and we're looking to get an agreement with Nutrien to make sure that water line is protected.
Okay, so we'll pull number 8 and number 9, and just remember there's a correction to number 4. We got a motion. Does that still stand?
Well, I will change my motion to, I will still move that they approve with the necessary corrections.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion. Yes.
Madam Clerk, I was looking for the minutes in the consent agenda. Get them done? Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other comment? If not, all those in favor of the consent items 1 through 7, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. We're down to item number J, item for decision. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you want to handle item 8 before we moved on?
Okay,
Commissioner Richards,
I'm sorry.
if that's all right.
I'm sorry. Hood?
Well, I have a problem. Item number 8, so the public will know what we're talking about, is a request has been made by Chocowinity EMS for the sheriff to give them one of their surplus automobiles. The problem that I have with this is Chocowinity has been notorious for the misuse of these vehicles. They've been used for personal use. I've had telephone call reports. There's a lot of things going on in Chocowinity, and the indictment hasn't come down yet on the fraud that was done in Chocowinity and who was actually defrauded. That indictment hasn't come down yet. I'm not interested in giving a car to these people so that they can drive it around and use it for personal use, misuse it and abuse it. If it's going to be used for a public purpose, if it's going to be used 100% with the EMS, I don't have a problem with it. But I'm not going to go along. I'm not going to vote for this. And the reason I'm not going to vote for it is because of the abuse that has come out of Chocowinity EMS and Fire Department and the reports that I've had in the past about it. Now I'll turn my microphone on now to change that.
This afternoon, I raised my concern as it related to policy, and Brian, would you like to comment?
I'm happy to comment. There was a request that came through the sheriff's office through the, in fact, I got a call from the mayor asking about it, if there was a vehicle that could move to them. I think there was an agreement. You have the email in your agenda package from the sheriff's office regarding that. We've done this in the past. The conversation the chairman and I had was we really don't have a policy that addresses how that occurs and whether we set those vehicles aside essentially for other emergency service departments to look at, whether that be fire departments or EMS departments in the county. I say we have done it before. I think Old Ford got a vehicle from us. Chocowinty's gotten a vehicle from us before. From our perspective, because it came through the sheriff's office, which is the way the other one came through, we pushed that through. I guess if you're asking where we stand on it, I would think that from a policy perspective, from an administrative side, I guess if you asked me to make a recommendation on that, we would recommend that you not do this for anybody in the future, not necessarily about this one, but going forward in the future, just let us surplus all our vehicles and sell them. Those vehicles go on gov deals, and if there are any agencies that want to bid on those, they can certainly bid on them. And the reason I say that is that's revenue that comes back to the county. But that's strictly from an administrative side, looking at dollars and cents. Obviously, it's a policy decision. It's a legislative policy decision by the board as to whether you feel there's a public purpose in doing that. You obviously are allowed by statute to do that because there's a public purpose. It's our understanding that they would put this vehicle to use in the EMS as a first responder vehicle. That's all within public use. So you can do that. It just takes a vote of the board. The sheriff's office is asking that you declare it surplus and then allow it to be transferred to Chocowinty. We'll take your direction on how the board wants to proceed.
Good. I'm going to ask that it be put on the agenda for January for a discussion. I guess my concern as a commissioner is that the commitment has been made, and I feel like we should live up to the commitment on this one, but I think we should have a written policy as it relates in the future, because we have other ones, and I've been asked before what the policy is, and I forgot about it. So, yes.
I'm going to make a motion that we do this one, and this is the last one that we do to coincide with the managers. I mean, because I've talked to some people in Chocowinty. They have been told that this was okay, this will not happen, and they depend on us for making this happen. So what I would do, my motion would be that we would honor this request, and this will be the last one until we get some policy in place for doing these type transfers.
Well, the problem is it's virtually impossible to write policy on something like this. because you got these small departments and you got these larger departments and you got this and that going on. It's worked fine without a policy up till now, with people just making a request and giving them a vehicle if we thought that it was worthwhile. I would say that if we discuss it next month at the meeting, commissioners meeting, that I would like to know how many emergency response vehicles that Chocowinity EMS has and why they need this particular one.
All right. I don't have any problems with them getting the vehicle or any of the other ones, but I think our policies should be that they're put out there on a bid, and if there's only one bid and it's $4, I have no problem with that. But I think it should be sent out to every department, volunteer fire department as well as EMS, when we have a surplus vehicle to see, or put it out there for bid and let the highest bidder have it.
I think what Brian's recommending is we surplus it through the state process, right?
Sorry. That's essentially what I'm saying is it's like we surplus all our equipment. We put our equipment on Gov Deals and we sell it. I mean, Commissioner Richardson's right. In the past, what we've done is we've just gotten a request. I hear the concern from some of the other board members about essentially giving equal opportunity for other agencies to do that. I would say to you that if you're going to restrict that to fire departments, EMS agencies, you could probably do that, but there are other agencies that do contract work for the county that could be eligible for that. So you'd have to talk through that policy. Or you could just say, we're not going to do it at all, we're just going to surplus everything.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the we pulled it, so we got to have a motion and a second and vote on it for this particular item,
I think
number 8.
Commissioner Booth made that motion.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there's a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right. Brian, you want to take number 9 and continue to explain?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is an agenda item regarding the needs-based public school capital fund application. As you'll recall, or you may not recall, but at the November 28th meeting of the school board, they approved sending the attached needs-based application to the Board of Commissioners for consideration. That's because you have to sign off on that. The chairman has to sign off on it. They are proposing through this application to seek $42 million in grant funds to construct a new pre-K through 3 school at the existing Eastern Elementary School site. I think y'all discussed a little bit of that at your joint meeting. The facility would serve approximately 900 to 1,000 students, and they would consolidate Eastern Elementary and John Cotton Taylor into that. There is a local match that's required by the Board of Commissioners. The good news, and that's $10 million. So for $10 million, you have the opportunity to get $42 million from the state. The good news on that is the local funding is spread over 3 years, so 23-24 it's $1 million, 24-25 fiscal year is $4.5 million, and 25-26 fiscal year it's $4.5 million. So that is the presentation. The superintendent of schools, Dr. Matthew Cheeseman's here tonight to answer any questions. You have the application in your agenda. So he can answer any of the questions regarding that. I know there was a question earlier about did this include demolition costs for either one of the schools. My understanding from Dr. Cheeseman is that there's just shy of $250,000 in the budget to demolish Eastern. At this time, they had not contemplated demolishing John Cotton Taylor. They were going to repurpose it. But we're certainly open to the board's consideration on that and what you wanted to do with it. So if there are any questions, Dr. Cheeseman.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I thought we were going to do number 9 in the consent
Well,
agenda.
since he's already introduced it, we'll come back. We'll come back to number 9.
All right.
We pulled it. We pulled number 9.
Yeah, we pulled it. We'll go back.
You okay? Yeah, it's just out of order, though.
Yeah, we'll come back. Welcome.
Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for entertaining this opportunity. What a tremendous opportunity it is for Beaufort County and Beaufort County Schools. I want to thank the county manager for already outlining the grant as documented. And I also just want to pause for a moment and recognize that our chairman, T.W. Allen, is here in the audience. Our vice chairman, Terry Williams, is here as well. Mr. Donald Shreve, board member, Mr. Gary Carlton, and of course, Ms. Alphabet in the back, and the remainder of our board members are watching in. And so we're super excited to be here for this opportunity. And at this time, I'd love to answer any questions that you may have for this opportunity.
I have several questions. Okay. And the first thing I want to start off by saying is only 10 minutes has been allotted on this agenda to make a $50 million decision by these commissioners. We cannot possibly do justice to this issue in this 10 minutes. And I'm aggrieved that staff thinks that this is going to be another cram down and we're all going to go home because the public deserves a whole lot better treatment than this. This is sorry treatment. My first question is, what are the defects in the present school that you're proposing to, in these schools that you're proposing to replace?
Well, the defects, when you're looking at a 1961 and 1967 construction specifically, first of all, let's talk safety and security. Whether you consider that a defect or not, Eastern Elementary School is designed on a pod system. Each and every student and educator have to leave that pod in order to go to another pod. In terms of what we're facing in the world nowadays, we'd love to have a greater safety and security system for that school. And that school of age of nearly 60 years old, we're consistently repairing plumbing, consistently repairing electrical, consistently repairing HVAC, consistently repairing floor tiles, at times removing asbestos when you're moving floor tiles. The design of the building was maybe a great design for the 60s. It's not a great design for where we are today. And so considering that, you're looking at also the education of a student. So if you want to talk about defect, let's not talk about just the structural design. Talk about the instructional integrity of how students learn over a course of time. We see great things from Bath Elementary School. That's a K through 8. You see great things from Northeast Elementary School. That's a K through 8. You see great things from Snowden Elementary School. That's a K through 8. You see great things over at P.S. Jones at 6-8. But what you see in Washington, and I don't want to use the word defect, but you are very limited, maybe one of only a handful in the state of North Carolina, where young children change their school so frequently. So let's look at a model where you collect them from pre-K to grade 3 and put them together where the education helps. If you want to see the defect and talk about staffing challenges that you may have, both for teachers, teacher assistants, nurses, counselors, you would not have as many staffing challenges in a pre-K through 3. The other part of that is the North Carolina accountability model. And for the longest time under the current accountability model, when you talk defect, is any score that John Cotton Taylor receives, because Eastern Elementary School does not have a tested grade level, they automatically get the representation of whatever JCT has, thus the accountability defect. So in short, you have structural issues, you have accountability issues, you have staffing issues that can be helped with this opportunity. What a great opportunity to create a new learning institution, a place, a learning environment where all children in the community can come into. So that would, I think, cover the defect.
But you're talking about structural issues. None of these have been flagged in budgets since I've been here. I've been here 27 years. We have never had structural issues flagged by the school board. A structural issue, to make sure what we're talking about, is a physical issue which would cause a building to fall down.
Sure.
So, okay, let's see your engineers and your architects' reports about these defects.
Well, let me pause you there, and I feel the energy coming from you, so let me slow down.
It's coming.
And be mindful that 2 years ago, I put your engineer request on the budget of which you then voted against. So I don't have the engineer of which you asked me for, which I requested for, which you denied. So
sir, there's a big issue here with truthfulness.
You got it.
There's a big issue here with truthfulness.
You can pull back the actual budget request, right? All right, so let me go back. Instead of fighting, we're doing something really awesome for kids. I will also remind you that the Board of Education this year approved $5 million of ESSER funding for HVAC, of which they did not have to do, of which the county would be responsible for. So they saved you $5 million for structural issues that we may have actually solved ourselves with never having to come here. I also want to thank the Board of Education for a long time before I ever got here. They used their capital funds to actually work on a lot of the actual structures that you needed or physical changes that you needed. Many of you know that because you've taken the time to come through the schools. So if you don't know, maybe you haven't taken the time to come through the schools, but I'm excited that you are coming now.
Well, let's go back to structural issues. Nothing that you have named is a structural issue. Heating and air conditioning is a maintenance issue. It is not a structural issue. So let's go back to an engineer's report, which if these defects are there, knowing how flagrant the school board is in claims, I'm sure you would have been in here long before now with a professional engineer's report or a licensed architect's report about these defects in these schools. So now let's get right down to it. Name the defects.
I've already answered the question for you. And
You have not answered the question.
No, sir.
You
I've
have
answered.
talked about
You just-
everything except structural issues. Let the record show that.
All right.
I'm going to go on to my next question.
You denied the budget request for an engineer.
We did not deny your budget request. You played games with the budget request just like you're doing now. So please, sir, don't insult my intelligence.
Thank you, sir.
Now, the next question, what is the enrollment presently at these two schools that you're talking about replacing?
John Cotton Taylor has 350 students. Eastern Elementary has 419 students. When you add pre-K, they're just over 800 students combined.
All right. What is the capacity of these two schools?
Greater than that. Meaning
How much greater?
I don't have that report in front of me, but that was provided to the Board of Education I believe it was provided to you on October 18th, of which a meeting that you attended with the Board of Education. That's already been discussed.
No, sir, it has not been discussed in light of this particular issue.
Anyone confirm
You
that it
can't
was
say
discussed together?
because you said something in 1939, it's pertinent today.
It was discussed on October 18th of 2023.
It was in the study.
Thank you very much.
Well, it wasn't presented in light of this particular
was
issue,
presented
and
in
until
light of
it's
this issue.
examined in light of the particular issue, it has no standing.
What light were you standing in? It was provided
All
to
right,
you.
let's go to another question. Have you considered the cost, the annual cost of so-called structural repairs against the cost and the burden of a $50 million building for these two schools?
Yes.
Okay.
I've considered that. I will also say to you,
Can I have those numbers, please?
I will be happy to send you some of them.
You don't have them tonight, do you?
I was not asked to bring them tonight.
Because if we look at a 20-year amortization of $50 million, we're talking about $2.5 million a year in structural repairs. There is no way, sir, that you are doing that. There are no structural repairs to be made, is the truth of the matter. So we're trying to justify something based on the fact that it's new and shiny and the state has free money and we can get it whether we need it or not. This doesn't serve the public. This doesn't serve the public at all.
In your opinion?
In my opinion,
In your
yes.
opinion.
And I think there are a lot of other people that think the same
Well, you
way.
and I are having this discussion right now.
We're all going to be given the opportunity to speak, so.
It's okay. Listen, I represent the Board of Education. I represent what they've asked me to do here today.
Well, it's not to do what you're doing. I can tell you that. We need to be a lot more candid with the public and with this board about the justification for building this new school building. The new school is going to be for how many students?
Approximately 900 to 1,000 students.
Didn't you already say that?
I did, sir, and Mr. Alligood did a very nice job of already representing that in the application of what he read in its entirety. Thank you.
I'd like to point out that as a commissioner, I have the right to ask anybody that comes before this board anything that I want to, and that the chairman should not be reinforcing the bad answers that I'm getting.
Well, it's been mentioned
not
3
your job.
times. It's been mentioned 3 times that it's 800 students, so.
Well, you guys are not presenting to the public what the public needs to know. Again, I'm insulted that someone would come to me and in 10 minutes ask me to approve the expenditure of $50 million with zero justification.
I've given you the justification.
I haven't seen your name I haven't seen your signature on anything.
Well, because I
So you
don't
have no
sign it for
standing.
the board.
You just have what you're mouthing, and that is nothing. Now, let's talk about you're talking about taking these schools and consolidating them, right?
2 schools. Eastern Elementary School will be demolished. John Cotton Taylor population would move into Eastern Elementary School.
And so you have what through grade what at the new school?
Pre-K through 3, as Eastern is a pre-K through 1, and John Cotton Taylor is a 2-3.
Now, let's see, you are going to consolidate the 2 schools into one huge school.
not huge, but I would, because it's only 900, it's not thousands. Let's pause for a second. So your definition of huge is a little skewed. But what I will say is, we would like to put all students together in the best interest of their opportunities to learn.
Well, let's take a look at it like this. If you were a parent in Beaufort County,
I am.
sitting out there right now, no, you're not the kind of parent I'm talking about, so please don't interrupt me when I'm talking.
Just make sure when you...
I don't need your attestations. I know what your attestations are worth.
Also,
So
taxpayer.
if you don't mind, allow me to finish what I'm
I'd be
saying.
happy for you to do it.
If you were a parent in Beaufort County and you had small children,
I do.
sir, your discipline, if you discipline your students like you're disciplined, it's no wonder we have the problems we have in these schools.
Understood. I'll stop. Go ahead.
Now,
Keep going.
if you had small children, age 1 through 3, and you lived in Beaufort County, would you want your 3-year-old or 6-year-old, not 3-year-old, your first grader to be in a building with 1,000 other small children? Can you think of anything that's any more terrifying for a small child, for that to happen to a small child?
Yeah, come to our county commissioners meeting.
We don't need the smart alecks. I've already said that. That is terrifying to me. I don't have children that small, but I know other people that do. I wouldn't want my child put into that kind of environment. That's an awful environment for small children. We need neighborhood schools for these children. They need to be broken down into small groups that they can feel secure with and that parents can have access to see what their children are doing in schools. Can you imagine as a parent going to this school, sir?
Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to ask, please be quiet. This is the way we're doing it. I'm trying to give him a fair chance to ask his questions. His opinion is different than other people up here. Everybody's going to have that chance. Please. And I ask the commissioner, I'll give you 1 more minute. You've already been 10. You've already been 10 minutes.
This is a $50 million issue, and it's not up to you to allot time on $50 million. Now, if you want to re-agenda this item and let's get into it, we can do that. This is not fair to the public.
We're going to
You need to get the sheriff to drag me out of here.
We're going to take a recess.
Because you cannot control this board. You cannot control the vote on this board.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
I'm going to talk to my wife.
Okay, we're going to reconvene, and we've got an agreement. We're going to go to the other commissioners, and then we'll go back one more time for comments or questions. So, who's one of the commissioners that would like to speak next? Randy?
Aren't we under a deadline to have these applications in?
Yes, sir. The deadline is January 5th, 2024, specifically the needs-based school grant awards, NC Education Lottery. And so there's a deadline of January 5th for it to be submitted. The next Board of Education meeting is December 12th. Should the county commissioners approve the application, then I would take it back to the board and ask for their final approval. And should they approve that at December 12th, then I would submit it no later than December 15th.
I was one of the first classes to go to Eastern Elementary in 60 whatever.
Yes, sir.
And it was really bizarre that they built it the way they did. All the current architects and everything just wonder why it got built that way. But yes, you have to go outside and to go to the bathroom, and you have to put the clothes and coats, overcoats and stuff on the kids. It takes a tremendous amount of time. There's been, kids that have escaped, that have gotten out because of, it's just hard to corral them in there. And so,
Corral, that's not a good word.
okay, well, to keep them, to keep them in there. You know what I mean?
We
You know what I
usually
mean?
have behavior issues that cause students to run.
So I think a behavior will be a much easier thing under one roof. I can't imagine having multiple schools to solve this problem, and I'm all for it. I don't see how you can do engineering work like Mr. Richardson talks about while you still occupy the building, because he's talking about basically, and it's got to be more expensive to tear the place almost down and then build it back to your liking. I think you need to start with a clean palette, and that's what we'll be doing.
John, I'm sorry.
Maybe this is not for the school board, it's probably for us. What are our options on the $10 million?
So your options are, you could pay cash, you could finance, however you want to do it. You have sufficient fund balance to write a check tomorrow.
I will add to that we completed our audit. That'll be presented at your next meeting in January. And our fund balance at June 30th, 2023 is at 45.07%. It's $32,416,800. So we could, even if you took the $10 million out of the $32 million, it would leave you with $22 million or a 31% fund balance. The other option would be to, if you want to pay cash, would be to dive into your capital reserve funds that we set aside, that $5.1 million. We could use the $5 million out of the capital reserve and take the other $5 million out of the fund balance. And I would advocate paying cash. I mean, rates have gone up. You're looking at probably a 7.5% interest rate if you borrow the money right now on an installment financing.
Anita, will you comment as it relates to the payment schedule that we would be required of the $10 million? It's over a 3-year period.
Oh yeah, the payment schedule, that item is in the agenda. We would be required the first year in 23-24 to provide matching funds of $1 million. In 24-25 fiscal year, it would be $4.5 million. And then in the third year, final construction, it would be a final payment of $4.5 million.
So it's over a 3-year period.
It is over a 3-year period. Another option that just came to me was we have about close to $4 million in that healthcare capital reserve that we borrowed money from back in, I believe it was 2017. The county borrowed money from itself to do some capital improvements on our facilities, and we almost have all that money paid back at this time. So that's another source of funding for us if we wanted to borrow the money from ourselves. I see no need to pay a bank 7% interest when we can borrow the money from ourselves and pay ourselves the interest back.
Let me see if John.
I'm done.
Okay, go ahead.
This is just a question for the finance officer, and I'll yield. I'd like to return and speak again later, after other people want to speak. How are we looking on our sales tax right now, and what is the projected rate of sales tax revenues that we're going to have for the rest of the balance of this year and next year?
So our sales tax revenues continue to be very robust, well above what was anticipated. We're running about 7 or 8% above our budgeted numbers on sales tax.
And do you have a projection for the next fiscal year?
It's hard to know. We'll talk about that this spring when we start our budgeting, but there's got to be a slight downturn where they flatten a little bit. But we have consistently seen 7, 8, 9% growth in our sales tax over the last 5, 6 years, every year.
Jared?
I just want to say this, and most people who know me realize how I think. I'm always thinking about moving forward. I don't believe that we should stand still and just waste time. We should not kick cans down the road. And this is an opportunity for us to move forward in education. When you think about economic development, when people want to come to Beaufort County, what are the things that they look at? Look at your healthcare system, they look at your education system, and they look at your law enforcement. And I think right now, all these are headed in the right direction. And we must continue to grow so that we can build more to grow. I mean, if you look all around us, everybody around us growing. Why are we stagnated? Let me tell you why. Stinking thinking. And that's what you're hearing tonight. Stinking thinking. We've got to get to the point where we see problems, we address the problems, and we move forward. I mean, think about this. We say 800 children in a school that they're going to be terrorized. Oh, no, they will not. They have more and more people to play with. That's pretty much the way that will be with them. You think about this, even when you were a child, if you had the opportunity to go into something new, you were excited about it. And look how convenient it will be for all the parents. One-stop shopping, isn't that what that is? The child stays there. Is it 4 years? Kindergarten, first, second, third, 4 years. And then they move to another location. And when they move to the next location, what is it? 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th?
4 and 5.
Yeah.
And then 6.
And then one more time to the high school. These children have been together the whole time. They know each other. And think about your sports. They know what to do now. They know who's in their schools. They know who they can depend upon, and they know the community. So this is a wonderful thing. We cannot back up. The day that we begin to start backing up and try to take old ideas and reinsert them, we're losing. We're losing. We've come too far to go back to where we used to be. Let us continue to grow. Let us continue to do what's best for Beaufort County so that we can grow and have more to offer people. And, maybe our young folk won't keep running away from us. Maybe they'll stay. Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, when I left home, I made my mind up that I wasn't going to speak on this subject because I might get lampooned because of who I am. But since I've heard all this rhetoric tonight, I changed my mind. I was the one that said to the school board chair, please don't let this $44 million pass. This is an opportunity that we may never get again. Whether we use it or not, we're going to pay. Somebody's going to use this $44 million, so why not us? And this is an opportunity that if it wasn't here, maybe not this board, but somewhere in the near future, there was a board that had to do something about Eastern Elementary. It is a subpar school. I'm grateful for the work that you do there. But anytime a child got to go out of the bathroom, got out of the building to go to the bathroom, I've done that at Acre Station. I had to go out in the house to go to the bathroom. That was in the 50s and 60s. Anytime you got to put plexiglass up to keep it from raining on them when they go to the bathroom, that's unheard of in America. I don't know where these guys come from that we don't need a school. And then you talk about money. There's no free money. You're true. That's true. There is no free money. In other words, anybody going to give you nothing if you don't want nothing. So I'm going to ask y'all to move forward. Do the best you can. And I know you heard some rhetoric tonight that didn't sound good. But I always tell my chairman this. Just learn how to count. If you can count to 4, you're all right. The other 2 or the other 3 or the other, if you can count to 4, you're all right. So don't pay that junk no mind and don't let it get your blood boiling. Pay some attention to the ones that want to help you and not the ones that, regardless if it was all free, they wouldn't want it. But we want it. Thank you.
I think, am I the last one in the first round, or did you have something else? Okay.
Questions.
All right.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead. This is still the first round.
Okay, very well, very well. Okay, we understand that the deadline is going to be January 5th. We met with you guys a little less than 2 months ago, and that's when we found out about your designs to build this school. $52 million, $10 million coming from the county, $42 million coming from the educational lottery. Obviously, the commissioners did not have a chance to workshop any of this expenditure, and it's a large expenditure. We built schools for less than $10 million, and that's what we're considering our match. Generally, we would go out for a bond referendum on that $10 million. I haven't heard that mentioned tonight. Of course, that it's going to be mentioned at some point. But I would like to make you and the public aware that this kind of expenditure is coming months, just months, before we go to budget, or for some people, it's tax raising time. But we are at that point where we could see this later and talk about it later, but you say there's a deadline. Are you saying that there will never be that money there again? If we don't take advantage of it now, it's gone for good. We will never be able to put our greedy little hands on it.
Well, for this round of funding, the answer is yes, it would be gone for good. On the second page of your application that you have, 3/4 of the way down, it says that the the Needs-Based Public School Capital Fund Grant Award, they have essentially about $254 million for this current fiscal cohort. So this is solely the application that we're asking all parties to get onto so we can submit it, meaning that other districts like Beaufort, 100 different counties in North Carolina, all apply into this, so it's highly competitive. So future funding is really based on what the North Carolina education lottery system provides and what lawmakers put in place in order for districts like ourselves to apply. So honestly, I can't predict what that would look like moving forward. I can just talk about what's in real time. To address your comment about, the suddenness of it, unfortunately, when the state budget was delayed, well, that delayed North Carolina Department of Public Instruction to release any of this information in order for us to even start filling out applications and the timelines. So I recognize your concern around what seems to be sudden. I feel that same feeling because these conversations essentially would have started 5 months ago, but the budget wasn't passed, so none of this was released to the public for any of us to really start working on at that time.
I'll reclaim my time. Now, we're under the gun. The state, you're saying the state has put us under the gun to act now. Representative Kidwell is here tonight. I would love to ask Representative Kidwell one question, if at all possible, if it would be the pleasure of this board and the pleasure of Representative Kidwell.
I'll allow you to answer that if you want to come forward. If you will, Representative Kidwell, explain, since this is being live streamed, where this money is coming from.
Understanding this is coming from the education lottery fund. And it's appropriations that will be made. It was made in this budget. Whether or not it comes up in a future budget will be based on what the desires of the 170 people that serve the state are on the next biennium budget.
Okay, so you're saying that there could be this opportunity again that this money be available even for a county such as Beaufort?
You play the lottery, Mr. Commissioner?
No, I don't.
That's what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We don't.
Good luck making sense out of what happens in Raleigh.
Well, I didn't vote for the lottery years and years ago when they asked for our resolved support, and this is probably one of the reasons why.
Well, I didn't vote for the casinos either. Matter of fact, I blocked them.
Well, good. We're on the same page again.
There you go.
So we've got let me, Representative Kidwell, let me ask you one question before you go. Yes.
One, and
okay, then I got some other things I want to talk about.
Okay.
Okay. Would you fight for us to get that money next year or the succeeding year if we needed it, once we had an opportunity to better decide how we needed to spend that money? Because I would like to, you're a good man when it comes to economics. Right now, this school building is going to cost $383 per square foot. That's about double what it was about 4 or 5 years ago before too much money started chasing too few goods. Now, the state of North Carolina would be better served to hold off spending money right now at this time. We would be smarter as Beaufort County citizens with that match being involved to wait ourselves. We do not have an increase in student population. This is a school this is a whim, this is a desire. Children have to walk outside. They've been doing it for decades. Oh my God. And we've got to do this now. Would you fight for us to get that money a year, 2 years from now?
So obviously, it's my job to fight for the people in the 79th district. So if there's funding available that will be allocated for these types of projects, it's my job to do the best I can to bring it to the counties. So absolutely, I would do that. If we're talking about education lottery money where it is right now, and this biennium budget, the money from the budget will be allocated to the counties that make requests for it. So if you don't make the request, you're not going to get the money.
This year.
As indicated. Correct, but that money's not going to go back into the budget and be reallocated in the future. So that money that's available to you now will either be spent by you now, or will be allocated to another county.
But again, like I said, there will be money later. I mean, unless you guys vote to get rid of the educational lottery.
Again, Mr. Commissioner, we've not seen a lot of this money come from the education lottery. I, like you, would not have voted for it, and I think the name justly ought to be changed because it's not really used for education, okay? This has been unusual in the 5 years that I have currently served in the General Assembly to see this allocation come forth. Will it happen again in the next biennium budget? Maybe.
Can I ask you one question?
That's up to your chairman.
I have the floor.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
Representative Kidwell. Mr. Commissioner, I'll defer to your chairman, and I'd be glad to answer your questions after the meeting if that would be appropriate.
That'll be fine.
Thank you.
That'll be fine. Any questions of Dr. Cheeseman?
Okay, yes. Have you got a site plan yet?
I believe you have a rendering that was provided to you.
I mean, a site plan, a horizontal site plan, vertical site plan, but not what I saw was an edifice of what the proposed building would look like. I'm talking about a site plan laid on the site. Where is it located? Where are the utilities? What?
The application says they haven't done it yet.
I got that, but I'm asking now, is there a site plan?
Height Associates has provided a general build structure for the Board of Education, but they do not engage in the entire site plan until after they understand whether this grant is moving forward.
Yeah, so we're applying. If we don't get it, no need for a site plan. If we need a site plan to make the best decision possible, which I will argue you always need to have a site plan before you make any decision on the expenditure of funds. That's just common knowledge for me and has been for decades, even before I became a county commissioner. But right now we're kind of operating in reverse and in such a way that the cart is chasing the horse rather than the other way around, the horse pulling the cart.
So the Eastern Elementary School would be demolished, the new school would sit just behind it. All right, so that entire land use would occupy the new school, including parking lots, driveways, bus lots, playgrounds, whatever it might be. But to actually sit with the architect, the Board of Education has not done that yet because the grant has not been submitted yet and it's not been approved yet for funding. And as you'll see through the grant process, there are a number of questions that are answered, but if you notice, this application is very simple, not asking for lots of detail, that the state of North Carolina wants every county in the state to have an opportunity at this, so they keep it very simple. And from that, the board has already acquired the partnership of Height Associates. The board has already acquired the land study with Terracon, and the board has also done the facility use capacity studies with Michael Miller with Numerix. And so they have advanced preparation to that. And so should the award, if all approvals came, and we were blessed enough to receive this grant funds, on the bottom of page 3 under the agreement, it says that the county receiving these funds is required to enter into an agreement with the Department of Public Instruction detailing the use of those funds according to that general statute. So from there, you would see an awful lot of movement that you're seeking. And I think because you're providing this, we would give you updates and, just greater conversations along the way, definitely.
Okay, I'm done with my questions. I'd like to make a statement.
Okay, we'll go around the last time. If you want to hold your statement.
Yeah, I'll hold my statement.
Okay. Is there anyone else other than myself on the first round? I think everybody's had a chance. Just so the public understands where we're at and how we got here, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners has a summer meeting every summer. They have different sessions where the commissioners can sit in and hear the discussion. And it's been 3 years ago that I chose to go to the North Carolina Lottery because it was talking about school financing. I was the only Beaufort County commissioner in the session. And they talked about all the counties that had received money, funds. And this is the annual report from the North Carolina Lottery for 2022, the year ended 2022. There's a total of 47 counties that have received better than $2.5 billion for new schools and repairs. I will repeat that again. And while I would repeat it again, I'll ask Brandon if he'll bring up my first slide that I want to use. Again, $2.5 billion over since 2017. So this is what, 6 years or 7 years? When you think of the grant of $42 million, being a former banker, and I asked Anita if she would run the numbers, if we had a school bond and Beaufort County taxpayers had to pay that back over 30 years at 5%, this grant equates to $81.9 million in total loan payments for the citizens of Beaufort County. I'll repeat that. It's not just the $42 million. It's the $42 million in principal plus the total interest payments. She ran it, but I also can do amortization tables, so I did it just to check her. Now, Brandon, if you'll go to the next slide. Okay, if we were financing just $42 million in school bonds, just the grant money, what does that equate to in our tax rate? It relates to 4.22 per 100. So our tax rate is 62.5, so you can add 4.22 to it. What does it mean in percentage? Because this is what you would write the check for. Now this is every year for 30 years. This is what this means. That means that it would increase 6.75%. Now, we have a responsibility as commissioners. We are an elected group. So we have the responsibility of asking questions, having discussions, challenging, making sure that everybody understands and is transparent. My job, my biggest job, is vision and making sure we're doing the right thing for the taxpayers in Beaufort County. It's a fiduciary responsibility. Don't ask me how to spell it, but I've heard that enough. That's our duty. It's our fiduciary to make sure that we spend that money correctly. And we're saving taxpayers a lot of money. Now, we're not talking about schools that are 30 years old. We're talking about 2 schools that are 60 years old. My question to the school board has been, through this process, is this the right place at the right time? Because, this is our shot for 3 years. We can go back again to 3 years. The goal is for every county to benefit from the lottery money to build schools. Now, repeat that. That's the goal. But it's like Keith says, every year it's going to be a different amount that's appropriated. So next year it could be less than 3. This year let's see, last year it was 395 million, I think was the total. I don't have any problems supporting this. This is, and everybody talks about free money. This is money that people at the Speedway, you've seen them. They go in there every day to the week, and I get frustrated when I have to wait in line to pay for a drink. But that's their money. They chose that. And this is the benefit to the taxpayers of Beaufort County. This is not tax money that you sent to Keith Kidwell to spend up there. He's got to make sure that they do their job, and it's our opportunity. I will be supporting it. So now I'm going to open it up for round number 2. I would ask for us to be polite, and I would ask that we keep our comments, each one, to no more than 5 minutes. So I'll open it back up to the first speaker, first person.
The last speaker may take longer than 5 minutes, Mr. Chairman. But first, before I do that, I'd like to ask, will all of the commissioners be allowed to use the video system to puff our position on an issue?
I would hope that you understand that that's available to all 7, and I took advantage of it. So
It's never been available before.
hey, yes, it has. Yes, it has.
It's never been used before.
I disagree with you.
It's never been used by an individual commissioner to puff a position.
Well, yeah, I think it would be called puffing if it was not a material fact. Everything I put up there is verifiable.
We're dealing with some material facts here. Let's
Yeah.
get into material facts just a minute here. Even though there's free money out there, so to speak, the question is, do we need another school? All of a sudden, because the state of North Carolina says we're going to give you money, we need to build a new school. Up until now, the superintendent or no one else has ever discussed structural problems, has ever discussed the need to replace these schools as being imminent on Beaufort County as something that we had to do. This was all invented because these guys want to build a huge school that is not going to be in the interest of good education.
Excuse me. Is your speaker on? Turn it on. Sorry.
Okay. Now, thank you. Now, let's go back to building a huge school and putting all these small children in it. That is not a good idea. I don't think there's a single parent that will ever tell you that. The truth of the matter is consolidation in the United States, which originated in California, has not worked. We had what, 8 schools that had a D grade. Our schools have not improved since we built these new schools. I was a commissioner when we built these new schools. I sat here and listened to people try to tell me the same thing that these people are telling me. If you build a new school, your children will be better educated. That is pure bull. The management of the school system, the dedication of the teachers, and the ability to put together a useful curriculum that teaches children how to multiply. We don't teach multiplication tables in school anymore. Did you know that? We don't require children to memorize that anymore. We don't teach cursive writing. There's a whole bunch of other things going on there that we need to be worried about instead of out giving an architect $2 or $3 million to design us a new school and cram a bunch of small children into it and miseducate them. The truth of the matter is the Beaufort County school system is actually failing. Look at the number of students that are coming out of the schools, going into private schools, being homeschooled, and all this sort of thing. It is simply not working, but we're talking about building another huge school building to continue to make the same mistakes that we've been making. And I'll give you one more irrefutable fact. These guys want to talk in terms of fact. Half of the floor space of the Beaufort County school system is not used. Yes. 50% of the school space in our schools is not used. And yet we want to build another school for another 20% increase in population when we have a declining population in Beaufort County. I haven't heard anything in here from my experience in management that leads to this decision. If you look at the facts, we don't need to be doing this. We are perpetuating the same mistakes that we have made in education in Beaufort County for the last 30 years, and it's led to a total disaster in our education system. And the education system is still going down. So why are we doing this? We should be looking at more neighborhood schools instead of this big consolidated thing, so some principal can make $125,000 or $130,000 a year and do nothing. It's a bad situation from a management standpoint. New schools do not educate children. Management of the school system educates children, and it has, just what? When you have a good school, you have children trying to get into it instead of out of it. And for the most part, our students are trying to get out of our school system and get anywhere else. At least the parents are trying to get them there. So what the questions that I'm asking is, nowhere will you ever go on the face of this earth when you will see 7 people brought into a room and say, make a decision in 10 minutes on $50 million. That's an insult to me. That's an insult to my ability. That's an insult to my knowledge. This is a bad situation, and you're being led down the path. We need to pass up this money and figure out what we're going to do with our education system so we know what kind of schools we need to build, because huge schools with 5 and 6 and 7-year-old children, 800 and 900 of them crammed into them, are a bad idea. It's a horrible idea. It's going to lead to even worse education than we have now. And I want to, and I haven't received any answer in here that makes sense. I, above all, have not seen what I would call, can't think of the right word right now, but another word for it is honest. I haven't heard honest answers in here. I've heard a bunch of puff to try to get the public, oh, we got to have this school. No, we don't have to have this school. We need a plan to educate our children. We don't need to keep building buildings and monuments that are not working and are not going to work. That's what I have to say about this. I'm not voting for it until I'm shown the justification to tear down 2 perfectly good buildings and build a new building simply because it's new and shiny and that impresses us. I'm not doing that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Excuse me.
You might.
Mike.
Mr. Chair, I promise you I'm not going to take 5 minutes to respond. My mind is made up what I'm going to do. On Friday evening, Friday night, I called my wife from Minnesota, St. Paul's, Minnesota. And I told her, I said, I have never been so proud of our schools as I were today. Some of the things that our schools are doing, some of those schools in there are beginning to do it. Fire academies, nurse academies, boat academies, and the list goes on and on and on. But I got to address an insult. My colleague said he was insulted because he had to make a 10-minute decision over $50 million. I would be insulted if we let this money pass and somebody else use it when our kids need it. And if I'm in order, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I'll make a motion at this point in time that we move forward and let them do the application. That's fine.
Hold that. I want everybody to go down the line.
Thank you.
What I have to say, I'll be very brief. Commissioner Richardson keeps saying we spent 10 minutes on this topic. We met with the school board October the 18th. Now, how can 10 minutes from October the 18th to this present time, can you see more than 10 minutes? Everybody's had this to look at it, to examine it, and re-examine it. And just because it's an agenda item tonight, now we're saying we're only spending 10 minutes on it. They could have spent as much time on it as they would have liked to. And if they had really pertinent questions, they could have picked up the telephone and called someone and asked the questions. And even if the questions were not answered then, the questions could have been answered tonight. So that is just for love. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Langley, still don't have a site plan. You can get on the phone all you want. That's not going to create a site plan. Site plans are very important before you start making decisions about how you're going to rearrange schools children's lives, and the taxing authority of Beaufort County, which is now going to claim $10 million from the people of Beaufort County to build a school in a county where our population of students is not increasing. But, hey, you're right, this is progress. Good progressive people, center-left coalition is going to make this thing happen. I'm going to vote against it, and I'll tell you why. It makes absolutely no sense to someone who was elected years ago by the people of Beaufort County to watch over their money, to make sure it's spent appropriately, in a logical manner. And just because, as Commissioner Kidwell so wisely elucidated, it is a luck of a draw with the education lottery. Excuse me, goof later, not now. I'm speaking. Please, sir, I have the floor. I have the floor. Yes, I do. I do have the floor. This is serious business for some of us. It's a luck of a draw. It's a luck of a draw, and that luck of a draw means we could lose it this year and we could get it again next year. Now, I will tell you, while that may be a luck of a draw, I'll tell you one thing that is finite. It costs $383 per square foot to build this school. That's double what it was 4 years ago, and it was too high then. If we hit a recession, this school building is going to be worth pennies on the dollar, or maybe nickels, dimes on the dollar. And we're not even sure this is the best way to spend our money right now for a county as large as Beaufort County, which is about 1,000 square miles split by a river. And once again, Washington is going to get the money. Yes, right around here, Township of Washington, the City of Washington is going to get the money. Some of you are going to say, well, why aren't we benefiting out in the county? Well, that money's going to be gone. We've heard that tonight. Better get it now. Money's going to be gone later. I ascribe from the thoughts, the hopes, the wisdom that money will be here later. It will be able to be spent at a much lower rate per square foot. We will get exactly what we need, where we need it. Those improvements made throughout the county. But if we get this lottery money now, the free money, there's no free money. Yes, there is no free money. And this ain't free money. If we work diligently now in this short period of time we've had to get this money, we may not qualify later for money allocated to the people of Beaufort County through the process of gambling. And that's a gamble. I get that. I don't agree with gambling for folks. I don't think the money's being allocated wisely or well. The General Assembly doing two things with education this year. One thing, making a stupid decision to allocate all this money now with the prices to build in this broken economy at $383 per square foot for this building, with too much money chasing too few goods still. That will change. But the one thing the General Assembly did do wisely this year, they started the process, the evolutionary process of school choice. Now that's going to change the paradigm greatly on how money's spent in North Carolina. So right now these guys are jumping at the bit. Well, excuse me, I'm mixing metaphors. Chomping at the bit, jumping at the opportunity to go after money that could be wisely spent, better wisely spent later. Okay? But now, we've got to do it now because it's for the children. I say we wait. We do better for the children later. Let's not jump and obligate the citizens of Beaufort County to $10 million without the benefit of a bond referendum. We just go and take money out of funds that have been set up and allocated and you can't touch it, and which is an unwise process, and we've argued against it many times, haven't we, Hood? But, hey, that makes it easier to go get that money, the money that could not go back to the taxpayers on two separate budget sessions. Mr. Chairman, I still have the floor.
Yes, you got 1 minute left.
I'll wrap this up by saying it is important for commissioners to know their position as a taxing authority of Beaufort County. I want to remind you, commissioners, of that. Now, I'm sure there will be some areas we will be celebrating, but if things turn south, those areas will be shrinking. And I think they're turning south right now. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Randy?
I'm voting for Beaufort County, and I'm ready to vote.
John?
I think it's also important that the public know our position on these things. Wake County school districts, schools, rank number 3rd in the state in parental choice. And if you want to see big schools, go to Wake County. My granddaughter and grandson go to schools there, and they're in the 2,000 population range. This isn't an exaggerated school system or school thing. This saves the county money in terms of the amount of money that's got to be invested to operate the schools. It saves them money in transportation. Okay, you're not running 2 different school buses. Okay, it saves them money across the board and all kinds of things. And security-wise, it's huge. I remember Felicia Vosberg telling me that she was walking down the hall one day at Easter, and there's a gentleman coming down the hall, and she says, "Can I help you?" And he says, "I'm looking for the office." She says, "Okay, let me take you. By the way, how did you get in here?" He said, "I was walking by one of those outside doors by the pods, and some first grader came by, and I waved at him, knocked on the door, he opened it and let me in." Okay? So more secure. The whole argument about big schools are too big is just BS. Okay? If you think that, you just haven't heard or talked to anybody else around that's been in big schools. So I'm voting for it because I think it's the right thing to do for the people of this county. It's the right thing to do for the children in this county, and it is the right thing that we as commissioners need to do for our people. Thank you.
I'd just like to make sure that this point is made, is the school board is made up of 9 elected officials. And if I understand, each one represents a district. And I'm not sure whether it was a unanimous decision or not on what to tackle with this grant. But I asked the chairman, and he said this was the right place at the right time. I've got confidence in the 9 that were elected. I don't think that, when you look at schools in the county, I thought it might be a different place on the south side of the river. But when I kept hearing kids are going to 4 schools from kindergarten through the 8th, I thought to myself, I wouldn't want my child, and I wouldn't want my grandchild doing that. So I think we've had plenty of conversation, and at this time, we already have a motion on the floor. So is there a second to the motion?
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, all those opposed, raise your right hand. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I will apologize if I got in left field, but this is the way we have to do it. I mean, we have to show respect, and everybody is entitled to their opinion. Our county manager, I forgot to tell everybody in here, left to go to his wife's swearing in at 7 o'clock at Washington Park. So he didn't leave because he was not interested in what was going on. And I should have said that, but he left during our discussion. So thank you very much, and we're gonna take our break, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. If I could have your attention, I'll ask that you please be seated.
I'm flattered.
This is probably the only time I'll be able to ask the sheriff to sit down, but. We got out of order a few minutes ago.
Sure.
We need one item. If you
Okay.
will just sit right there. Christina, can I get you to come up here? Brian's not back. We're going to go ahead and you can handle the water, item number 9, as it relates to State Road 1923 and State Road 1928. You can do that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Especially because the intent that the manager, I believe his intent earlier was to actually pull that item from the agenda, or to use a different nomenclature, to remove the item from the agenda. We were asking to remove the item from the agenda because there's some additional, there's an 8-inch water line that runs along West Road. So we are discussing that matter with Nutrien, so we wanted to have that information to give to you at the same time as the DOT request. So we were technically asking to remove the item from the agenda, not just to pull it from the consent agenda to the regular agenda, but to totally remove it from the agenda.
One or two sentences, the same thing that's already been brought up. What I was going to say and what I want in the record is, are there any other entities that have interest along that road that we are overlooking? And that includes not just our water line, but any of the utility companies. Who handles them on an issue like this? DOT? Or
No, sir.
Nutrien?
No, sir. That, and again, that's the reason why it was pulled. DOT just sent the simple request, and you see the information that was provided, which was limited. So then we contacted
Right.
them to make sure that all of those items are.
That's the only concern I had, was the same as your concern. I just want to be sure nobody gets left out because of our hasty action.
Yes, sir. So I will, we will research that as well for the other utilities and have that information for you.
Sanders?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Janelle? Thank you for waiting.
Oh, no problem. Sorry. I was ready to roll. I'm Tiffany's hype man tonight, so I'm just introducing the lovely Tiffany Moore. She is Beaufort County's Behavioral Health Task Force Coordinator. If you haven't met her, I certainly hope you have, because she's wonderful. She's really been creating, in my opinion, a shift of change and communication here in the county. She's here tonight to update you guys, as you requested in the past, every 6 months, an update about the opioid settlement funds. So I'm going to hand it over to Miss Tiffany.
Good evening, Commissioners. On behalf of the Beaufort County 360 Behavioral Health Task Force, I wanted to give you an update on the implementation of the opioid strategies that you all approved back in September. So this is our 6-month update. Next slide, please, Brandon. Just as a brief review, and I do apologize, but I'm having to read it from the screen, so no disrespect intended.
That's not working, I'm sorry.
Just to refresh your memory on the Behavioral Health Task Force, we were commissioned by Beaufort County 360, the leadership collaboration, to address behavioral health needs in Beaufort County around substance misuse and mental health based on evidence-based practices and collaborative action. Our first priority, of course, is Beaufort County. We do intend to collaborate regionally if the opportunity prevails. But just to review some of the strategies that we are implementing, first we wanted to focus on a comprehensive education and prevention campaign. Our youth is our big focus area, so the first strategy was to continue the Behavioral Health Task Force collaboration. Secondly, again, we wanted to focus on prevention of misuse and substance abuse with our youth, so we wanted to add an health educator to our community. We also wanted to expand the scope of the reach of the opioid settlement funds. We know a lot of things are centered around certain organizations and entities that are already at the table, so we wanted to expand by piloting a couple of community projects. Also, we wanted to provide interventions for individuals who are already suffering from substance use disorder by adding to our peer support infrastructure. Next slide, please.
To give you an idea of some of the things the Behavioral Health Task Force collaboration is currently working on and still working on. We are not currently being funded by the settlement. We are still utilizing the funds that we received by KBR. However, we are still focusing on community outreach. We understand that transportation is a big barrier to resources for a lot of individuals in our community. So one thing that we did with Community in Action is we went and took it out into the community to those individuals who are not able to get to the resources. We have served, just in this past year, we served Washington twice. We were able to go out into Belhaven, Chocowinity, and Blunt's Creek. These events on average have about 150 to 200 participants. Our number of vendors have doubled. And when we started out, again, we were commissioned to focus on mental health and substance use disorder. The community itself reached out to us and wanted to be involved with more outreach efforts. So what started out as 5 or 6 vendors at our events, which were primarily treatment providers, has broadened into about 30 on average. So we have a ton of different vendors with a lot of different resources that, although may not fall under behavioral health, affects behavioral health. We also, for the first time since we've been having these events, gained sponsorship from one of our community partners. They reached out and said, hey, we would like to support another event. The community loves it, and people are actually utilizing the resources that you're presenting. We're also continuing to work on our podcast series, Riverfront Talks. Again, the focus was to break the stigma for people who have substance use disorder, to educate the community about the disorders, and to inform the individuals who are suffering about resources that are available within the limits of Beaufort County. We have thus far published 10 episodes. I would like to say that a publication created by the Department of Health and Human Services reached out to us on last week. They are really impressed with what we're doing with the podcast. They want to run it as a segment in their weekly newspaper for the Rural Health Information Hub. So we will get a lot more attention on Beaufort County itself, but also the different initiatives that we're taking to address the opioid epidemic and substance use disorder. And again, just the diversification of the task force and the community in action events. Community in Action has grown so exponentially that it's almost become a collaboration in itself. Next slide, please. So one of our key strategies that we brought before you was to expand the peer support infrastructure within Beaufort County. Again, when we came before, we talked to you about the challenges that we face with the peers. We have successfully employed one certified peer support specialist through the state of North Carolina. We did offer the second peer support position to a certified peer support specialist, and this person actually is not even interested in the gainful employment of it. They are actually doing it for the love of the work and for the people that they serve. So we have a volunteer peer support specialist along with one that is being funded through the opioid settlement, and they are both out in our community doing great work. Some of the work that they do is with the Recovery Court participants and the alumni group that has been created through the Recovery Court program for the 2nd Judicial District. They are a part of the leadership team for Celebrate Recovery. They also join in and do a lot of community outreach events. They facilitate support groups for local treatment providers and agencies, helping their individual participants that are in treatment with access to resources such as transportation. Again, is a big barrier for a lot of people. We have some that work with our nurturing and parenting individuals, and we also have some that are responsible for identifying inpatient treatment beds that are available. We know this area lacks in inpatient treatment. So one thing that we needed to do was find a way to get them to treatment and to detox, and our peer support specialists are helping us be able to do that. Next slide, please. And what we have here in this picture is actually, and we do have release forms for them, but these are some of the young ladies that our opioid educator, as we call her, worked with on prevention. Our substance misuse / opioid educator was hired in May. She hit the ground running during the summer months. We were concerned with what our kids were getting into. So what she did was partner with some of our faith-based organization leaders, as well as collaborate with the Boys and Girls Club to make sure that kids had a safe place to stay during the summer, where instead of going out and getting to mischievous activities, they could actually be educated on the dangers that are out there. During August, she pretty much came back, regrouped, continued to train, reach out for other additional resources that she could bring. And at that point in time, she began working with our schools, Northeast Elementary, to be specific about one of the younger populations that she's working with, but also Southside High School, Washington High School, and just recently she began working with our early college students. And she continues to rotate around the county to the different school systems, so she's not stationary in one place. From May until now, she has successfully worked with 231 different students. Just some of her outcomes that she noted as she was working with these students. Now, our educator, as well as some of our pilots, are actually doing pre-assessments and post-assessments, because that was one thing that we promised to you, so we made sure that they actually abide by that. So one thing that she had, and this is a little different from what I have up there, but was an increased knowledge about positive ways to deal with stress. One thing that we know causes kids to turn to drugs, turn to the streets, and a whole lot of other illegal activities or mischievous activities, is the fact that they don't know how to cope with everyday situations that occur in their lives and in their home lives specifically. So one thing that she wanted to do was make sure that they understand different coping skills that would be productive to them, rather than those that would be harmful or have detrimental outcomes further on down their lives. Also, refusal skills are big. One thing that we have identified, and I supervise this individual, so I actually have a lot of one-on-one conversations about the work that she does. A lot of kids are falling into peer pressure because they're scared that they'll be deemed as uncool or unpopular, or they'll suffer consequences and be on the out group if they refuse to engage in the substance use or different types of activities that are negative that their peers are having them to engage in. So one thing that she wanted to do was make sure that they understood that there are different refusal skills that you can use. They're non-confrontational, but also effective in telling someone no when they're trying to get you to engage in activities that you should not be a part of. And also one other takeaway from this was the terminology. We're going around, we're talking to these kids there, you see it on the news when we're talking about the opioid settlement. One discovery that she came across was a lot of these kids are not correlating opioids with what they're hearing in pop culture, on the internet, different things. You have songs that are actually out here encouraging our students, young little children, to use Percocets, to use Molly, to use these different substances, and they're looking at them as a party drug because that's how they're being promoted to them. But when we tell them don't use opioids or don't use substances, they're not correlating the two. So one breakthrough that she's had with her students is their understanding that these are the dangers we're talking about. They're just very commonly noted according to pop culture. Next slide, please. So one of the community projects that we decided to support was the Boys and Girls Club of Belhaven. They already had a program called Smart Moves in place, and their skills mastery and resilience training. Basically, the focus is to teach them how to avoid substances or resist peer pressure and things like that. And some of the takeaways that we got from that is that 88% of members reported if they feel confident that they can say no. Again, refusal skills and being comfortable using their refusal skills are pertinent to our individual kids being successful and not falling victim to some of the stuff that they could get into. 24 preteens and teens participated in the Smart Moves program. They reported a 95% increase in knowledge among our Smart Moves participants regarding substance misuse and refusal of drugs. And 22 members actually partook in community engagement events where they could actually go out and do service projects that would be beneficial to their individual communities. And just a lot of the realization that the decisions that they make today can negatively affect their futures, and just trying to keep that in mind as they're going about their daily lives. Next slide, please. One of our other community projects was to work with Daughters of Worth. Now, Daughters of Worth, just to give you a little background, focuses on human trafficking and the intersection between that and substance use. The metrics that were provided by them were that they worked with 5 survivors specifically from Beaufort County. And we did stipulate that they had to be from Beaufort County when we did this. 4 of those survivors had suffered from substance use disorder, specifically opioid use disorder. One of those survivors was a minor. The minor had engaged in substance use and even opioids, but when they did the assessment on the youth, they determined that she was not dependent on the substances and therefore didn't need inpatient treatment. So that's where that number difference is. 3 of them did receive inpatient treatment for services for opioid use disorder, and 1 had a more urgent need, so that one was provided with transportation and a connection to a detox facility that was actually taking in new patients. All 5 of these individuals report a reduced or eliminated use of substance use disorder. And just some of the continued work the Daughters of Worth is doing. They are actually going out into our schools. They are assessing the young ladies and even young men there to find out the ones that have been victims of human trafficking or that are at risk for human trafficking and substance use disorder. They are also partnering with juvenile justice. And they've also created a separate prevention program called GLAM, which is Girls Living a Mission, which is focused on prevention education for these young ladies. Next slide, please. So some preliminary outcomes for this, just to show the connections to care that they have provided. They've been able to locate and transfer individual survivors to inpatient treatment when necessary. They've completed 3 of those participants that we spoke about earlier were actually completed their inpatient treatment time frame, and they are still utilizing the services of Daughters of Worth for advocacy, continued basic health needs, and different services and things that, I'll be honest, a lot of us take for granted every day, such as food and clothing and safe shelter. Next slide, please. And I wanted to end with a couple of things. The statement that you see here is directly from one of the human trafficking survivors that Daughters of Worth works with. And she just says that Daughters of Worth saved my life. I also provided you with some documents. When we report out to the state, they require that we provide success stories for anything that we funded through the opioid settlement. So these are specific to the community projects that we wanted to pilot. We'll start with the easier of the 2 stories. And this is directly from the individuals who administer this program, and we'll call our first participant Savannah C. Savannah C., an 11-year-old member of the Bellhaven Club, attends with her 2 younger siblings. The trio's parents are both alcoholics and drug addicts. Savannah participated in a Smart Moves program and gained knowledge about how to say no to drugs and alcohol and what these substances do to people. Savannah serves as a protector of her siblings, keeping them away from their parents' drugs and alcohol. She states that the things she learned in the Smart Moves program makes her aware of what is happening in her own home and will keep her from experimenting with drugs and alcohol as she sees firsthand what they can do. So that is the benefit of our youth having somewhere to go with a positive impact on their lives. And counterintuitive, counter to what they're seeing at home, they still have a positive influence when they can actually go into these settings and learn the things that they're seeing are not okay and they're not normal. So on the screen, you also see a trigger warning. Our success story from Daughters of Worth is a little bit more complicated, a little more detailed. It does include the topics of sexual abuse, substance use, violence, and a few other things that we just wanted to make you aware before I read the story. And we thought it was important to read the stories directly so that we didn't mince their words. One of the women that we are serving has had years of sexual abuse. As a child, she was sexually abused by her father and began using substances at a very young age in order to numb the pain of the traumatic experience. By the time that she was in her early 20s, she began engaging in destructive relationships. Because of the substance use disorder, lack of family support, and dire poverty, she herself homeless and vulnerable to predators, she ultimately met a man who offered to provide her with safe shelter, food, and to meet her basic needs. While the relationship looked promising and she thought that she had found the one that she would marry and spend her life with, things quickly turned direction. He began to force her to perform sexual favors for himself as well as with other men. While she was sometimes provided with substances for these sexual acts, oftentimes she was not provided with anything. This man would solicit her online, facilitate her dates, and receive compensation, cash, drugs, or both in exchange for her performing sex acts for others. Her substance use disorder intensified as he began to provide her with harder substances in higher amounts. After being beaten, strangled, threatened, and having a gun at her head, she knew that she had to find a way to get out. Seeking assistance from Daughters of Worth, we were able to help her safely exit her trafficker and assist her with a referral for detox and inpatient services. Daughters of Worth provided her with food, clothing, medical care, hygiene items, and assistance with emergency shelter upon release from the inpatient treatment facility. When asked how Daughters of Worth has impacted her life, she stated, "Daughters of Worth saved my life. Without this organization, I would not be able to successfully leave my pimp. He would have killed me if I stayed. Because this organization helped me, I am now able to be free from drugs and finally able to start my life over again." And again, these speak to the importance of the work that we're doing, the importance of the individuals that are participating in these community projects, and hopefully the big impact that we plan to make with this opioid settlement fund.
Okay, we'll open it up, questions from any of the commissioners. I think that, I know you answered one question that John had. Is that right? Okay. Any other, I want to say one thing. I want to congratulate you on your success and the fact that you're focusing on just say no, teaching people how to decline this. That is an important social skill that those of us adults don't think about, but children simply don't have. You need to keep pushing that. Ed?
You said that the peer people that you have, you only fill one of those positions. Is that correct?
Only filled one thus far.
And the other one is a volunteer person?
Yes.
Okay. And I commend you on the work that you're doing for the drug court and all that. Chairman and I went to a few of your sessions, and we'd love to be invited to more. I also been to BC 360, and you put a lot of emphasis on the youth. And I'm wondering next time you come, you could let us know what those peer people are doing. I hadn't heard anything about the 21-year-old or anything about those. And I understand that we want to contact our youth, but we just can't say they're going to die off or kill themselves. We want to know what are we doing to educate them for that disease. And when you come back, you get a good report. But when you come back, please let us know what the peer group is doing. The peer group is not going in the Boys and Girls Club, are they? So let us know what they're doing. Thank you.
Well, gladly, and I do, when I come back, I do have a few things that we are working on with our peers. For the new year, we've started our strategic planning process already. The task force as a whole has asked that we do more within the counties with the opioid settlement funds. So we are definitely getting ready to start getting active again, and we're looking into new strategies that will be effective for everyone.
Any other?
I just have one comment. Thank you for all that you and your entire group are doing. In the words of our Lord, he says, when you've done it to the least of them, you have done it unto me. So continue to do what you're doing. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? I would ask, can you have that presentation emailed to the commissioners?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Christina, I believe that you're up next.
Good evening, Commissioners. Included on page 56 of your agenda packet, you have the abstract which outlines information we have regarding the purchase of 2 vehicles for the Water Division of the Public Works Department. Funding was included in the fiscal year 2024 budget for these vehicles. Staff requested quotes from various vendors, both locally as well as through statewide purchasing cooperative agreements. And you'll see attached the bid tabulation form that gives all of that information. We were requesting quotes for 1 full-size pickup truck as well as 1 service truck that would be utilized by our water quality technician. This is the technician that goes around and does our flushing, which we are now doing 6 months out of the year. So again, you'll see that no additional funds are needed, and so I would request that you approve the purchase of 2 vehicles from Ilderton Dodge, which is out of High Point, and that is through the Sheriff's Association purchasing agreement.
Motion to approve the purchase. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and we have a second. Questions, discussions?
Yes, sir.
Flushing. I mean, this money's in your budget, and I told you I wasn't going to mess with your budget. What do they do? Are they the ones that just go around and open the hydrants and stuff when they flush, or do they go over to add chemicals?
They do a little bit of everything,
Okay.
and that's why it's a service truck for the different tools that are needed, and it's replacing a.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hood, did you? Okay. All right. All those in favor of the purchase of the 2 trucks for the water enterprise for a total of $99,115, which is within the budget. Raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chris?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon.
So before you today on a bit of a follow-up on the agenda item we brought before you in October, where we were pursuing a BRIC grant, but building resiliency and community grants. And what we proposed for application processes, if you recall, was a canal storm clean-out project for soil and water. And we were looking at a water system infrastructure redundancy piece for public works, as well as some storm gauges and river gauges and surge awareness poles throughout Beaufort County. Pleased to tell you tonight that we submitted those 3 projects on the initial application. 2 of those were approved for the next step, which is the full-blown application piece. Those 2 would be the canal debris clean-out project. Sorry, I get tongue twisted on that every time. And as well as the surge gauge and awareness poles. So working very closely with North Carolina Emergency Management and Department of Public Safety on completing that grant, the full application for those projects. One of the things that EM has looked at is making sure that we are in compliant with all the FEMA checking boxes type things that FEMA looks at anytime they're awarding federal funds. And what they found is one of our existing plans, they would like to see some verbiage added to so that FEMA can't dig us on it when they're reviewing our application. So I'll give you a little backstory on that particular plan. The plan we're talking about is the Pamlico Sound Regional Mitigation Plan. We entered into that plan. It's a joint plan with Carteret, Craven, Pamlico County, and Beaufort County. To my understanding, we entered into that in the 2015 timeframe. So that would have been prior to mine or Carney's time here. But again, it all came about because a lot of the times when you're dealing with state and federal funds, they like to see plans associated with whatever grants that you're going after. And I'll be forthright with you, that's a growing trend, particularly when you're talking about FEMA money. So that's what led North Carolina Emergency Management to say, hey, we probably need to add some verbiage to your current mitigation plan so that as FEMA is reviewing your applications, no one can say you're going after a grant that you had not identified in your risk assessment. So what I'd like, if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'm going to share with you the excerpt that they're actually looking at making this addition to. So, yeah, you gotta have your glasses.
Have to read this for us.
Have your glasses on this.
People with glasses.
So this particular mitigation plan is about 786 pages long. And in that, it addresses everything from planning, risk assessment, core capabilities, and how we're going to take action on things that we identify. So the particular piece that North Carolina Emergency Management recommend we make an addition to is this page that I gave to you. It's Section 7 of the Mitigation Action Plan. All of the partnering counties have a page that outlines what their particular action plans are, and they're different. So we're not bound to anything that Carteret County does. That's the beauty of this plan, all right? So it's unique to us. So the changes that they recommended we do is basically create a third column on this with a description. Sorry, let me flip page here. With a description of adding complete needs assessment, purchase, and installation of additional stream gauges connected to flood warning systems, provision of signage, and other means communicating. So they're essentially adding that river gauge piece that we have the application due for as a third category of our action plan. That's what they're asking us to add to that. And that's what we bring before you tonight for your approval. Obviously, we're not going to make those changes without your approval on doing that. So hope I explained that as simply as I could and to the best that I understand it, but I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions from commissioners? Okay,
Yes, sir.
In the document that you gave us, or we had in our packet, it says potential funding sources, FEMA, BRIC, and local funding.
Yes, sir.
Is that something, is that part of the ad? Is that part of the ad?
No, sir. The local funding is the requirement of the grant itself. So as we presented it in October, depending on the approval process, we could be asked to match up to 10% of that. Now, to say that for certain, I can't right now. There's a lot of variables that go into play on how much we would have to match toward that grant. So that's where the local funding piece came in. It would be the match of that grant. And obviously, before we accept anything or spend any money, we will be back before you.
Okay. Ed?
Chris, I was sitting there looking, since this matching grant, you look, saying that the municipalities, commissioners in the municipalities, do they contribute any money towards the grant, or is it all county grant?
This would be a county initiative and county funded. The reason why the municipalities and a lot of these other agencies are listed as partnering agencies is we're looking at putting about 18 different river gauges in strategic places around the county. Some of that may be public owned, some of it might be private, and we're listing those potential partnerships as agencies, just so that FEMA can't say we're not including someone that we didn't fully disclose to.
Randy?
Yes, sir.
Hurricane season ended a few days ago. Is there any, if everything goes right, will any of this be in place for next hurricane season?
It'll be tight. And this would not be awarded until probably early spring of '24. So depending on how quickly we could get the funds and make procurements, could we have some gauges in place? As we get into the peak of hurricane season, I think we could. Could we have the project completed by then? That's going to be hard. But I do think we could have some components in place before then. And kind of a squirrel on that, beyond this particular funding opportunity, we've been working with North Carolina, NC State, and the Ag Department on acquiring some river gauges, separate river gauges from this project in the county. Had a very successful meeting with them about 3 weeks ago. Carried their representative on several areas in the county, and they're ready to move on 2 gauges. One being in the back of Chapawinity Bay, which would really help us out with the Bay Lakes and Twin Lakes area.
If you need a place, I got a good location.
And you mentioned that.
Just call me when you're ready to put it in.
I'll do it.
Did you? No. Any other? Okay. Entertain a motion for approval of Amendment 1.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item for decision is from the Sheriff's Office. So the first item is the 911 console furniture purchase for approval. Victoria, welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Through the 911 board replacement schedule, we're eligible to replace our console furniture for the 4 console positions that we have in communications. This project's already been approved, eligible by the 911 board. Of the 107,000, only 6,000 of that will come out of the already budgeted communications budget. I'm just requesting tonight that we move the 97,000 out of the E911 general fund to cover the rest of the balance. And just to state, this is coming out of the E911 general fund balance.
Okay, motion to approve. Second. I got a motion and a second. Anita, on the, well, I see it now, it does have at the top the E911 surcharge fund balance. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the 911 console furniture. Oh, I'm sorry. Apologize. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is request for 12 SRO positions. Sheriff Hammonds.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am Sheriff Hammonds, and I'm here to request the 12 SRO positions for each public school. And we have been through many discussions with school superintendent and school board. On the last closed session, they said go ahead and move forward. I assured them that we would provide the 12 between that last closed session and today. And so, ready for, I see it's a decision point. Got any questions? We're open.
I see we have a handout from our finance officer. So I'm going to refer to Anita for comments as it relates to the handout in front of you.
Yes, sir. So I know everybody's interested in knowing the financial impact of a change. So I did try to attempt to put together the cost, salary benefits, and operational costs associated with deputy SROs. You can see that listed on the left-hand side. We've got the average SRO deputy salary. They're looking at putting corporals in that position. So an average corporal deputy would be at $51,000, and then you can see the benefits added to that, putting the total cost for salary and benefits at $74,831 annually. And then just looked at his regular operating budget to kind of take a swag at what the operational cost would be per deputy, and just did some simple averages there on the training budget, uniforms, the body cam radio costs and things like that. I did use a 7-year life, which is the average vehicle life for a deputy vehicle, and use that depreciation of $7,143 for the vehicle. So looking at the annual operational costs, we're looking at about an additional $17,000 there. So in total, the estimated cost of a deputy outfitted with uniforms, a vehicle, everything they need to do that SRO position, you're looking at about $92,000 per deputy. Now, in talking with the sheriff this afternoon, currently Allied utilizes 13 positions out there. He says he can do it with 11 deputy corporals and 1 sergeant that's supervising, so he would have 12 positions. So that brings the total cost for 11 corporal deputies and 1 supervising sergeant at the sheriff's office at $1.113 million annually. And you can see that I've compared that to the total annual contract costs that we're paying Allied Universal, and there's a difference of $49,500.
Okay, any questions of Anita's spreadsheet? John?
Anita, I think in the school district's budget, their Allied contract says $667,000.
There are different sources. I'm looking at the total contract cost. The county currently gives the school $600,000 for SROs. There's a $400,000 grant that they get from the state. So that brings that to your $1 million number that it's currently costing for SROs at the schools. And the schools are kicking in about $20,000 per year for SROs.
Okay.
Andy?
Are you going to use existing vehicles? Because there's no new vehicles on this spreadsheet, is there?
And that is a discussion coming forward, because the current vehicles that are either purchased or leased, they're actually a lease agreement between the school or the county, and I believe it's the county that's actually leased those. So we would have to...
That potentially could be an additional one-time cost. That's something that came up late this afternoon. I do not have an answer for yet. So the contract states that there's a 4-year lease on the vehicles to provide the SROs through Allied. The actual contract to provide the services is a 3-year contract. So I don't know who's on the hook for that extra year if they don't renew that Allied contract for the lease of the vehicles. I'm not sure if that's something that the schools and the county would have to pay, or if those vehicles would revert back to Allied and they would be on the hook for that final year of the lease. I need to investigate that.
Okay, but in either case, you're not going to want those vehicles, right?
Not as a...
Because they're not...
Not for longevity purposes, no, but, you know, I'm in agreement that if we're on the, who's on the hook, if we're in the law sport, I believe we can work with that until that agreement runs out, so we're not in the, but it's not the deputy's optimal setup, all right?
But you could live with it for the 1 year that's left if the county's on the hook.
Or I would recommend y'all to use them in other capacities in the county.
So at the most, we're talking about $151,000. The lease is $1,400 per month per vehicle. And I think is there 9 vehicles? There's 12 vehicles.
There's one per public school.
Wait, what was the total, Anita?
It was $151,000 and change.
Okay.
$1,400 a month times 12 months in a year times 12 vehicles. That should be about $151,000.
But we would have to do capital after that. We'd be buying sheriff's cars and outfitting them at what, 50,000 apiece by the time they're outfitted?
That's correct. If I can, give you a rough number. So really, that's about where we're at your current budget you're dealing with right now. And I'm giving you and you're paying for a 12-month deputy with full arrest and deputy duty.
Randy?
I think the current Allied contract runs out in July. You can get 12 by July.
I'm telling you, I'll have you 12.
All right.
That's what I'm doing.
Stan?
First and foremost, did you say you had a closed session with the school board to discuss these matters?
I sat down with them in their closed session. I attended it.
You didn't request that closed session?
Who knows?
Did they request that closed session with you?
Not with me, no.
Did nobody say we probably shouldn't be meeting here and talking about it? They just went on?
Well, and if I'm using the word, I don't know what their discussions were.
When they discuss security, they have to go closed session.
Every time we talk public safety, it's not to be on, even that day or even tonight, I would withhold.
But you're not discussing security, you're discussing a contract. It was a whole different thing.
Actually, not. It was a public safety meeting.
If you're discussing you can't break a closed session down into the parts just because part of it is legitimate a closed session and part of it's not. You still can't be in a closed session. This doesn't sound to me, as the commissioner has raised the issue, as being something that's illegal.
Not that you have any fault because you didn't request it. I'm just, I'm just asking. There's a lot of things that go on with a lot of money being spent here at the county level that we find out, as evidenced earlier tonight, we find out late in the game that this is going on, and maybe we should have known about it, but it's hard to know things if you're excluded from certain meetings, as the public is, as we commissioners are. Some of us commissioners are from time to time.
And I respect that, Commissioner. Do you recall when we were all there, both boards were there?
Well, yes, I was there.
And that next session was spoke of about meeting that, what was it, October, no, it was October month. Well, that was the one I attended. So it was not any discussion.
It was after we met, was that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't any discussion of contracts or dollars or anything.
It was just public safety. Speaking of public safety, has the school developed a public safety plan to the extent, and has it been submitted to you for your thoughts and your wisdom about locking all the doors remotely at any given time as needed, and maybe even to the extent of maybe beginning an initial discussion of arming school personnel that would want to be armed in certain situations where they would need to be armed?
They didn't make that a discussion for me. If they discussed it, I wasn't present during that discussion.
Okay, but that has never been discussed with the school board. They have not proffered that to you, and you have not proffered that to them in return.
All those suggestions come up about my ideas of whether that's doable, whether it's safe, whether it's conducive, whether an educator should cross that line of being a public security officer versus an educator. I've created that dialogue myself with school board.
Yeah, but that has not really been discussed in open session?
I can't answer that.
Okay, but they haven't really put anything to you in writing as a organized idea?
No, because that doesn't come.
Manifestation.
That's not the discussions that I have even pondered into as getting to the school resource officer. That's just one I've not been into that. My office has done security surveys on every public school and private school. And you should be knowledgeable that there's a lot of needs that they're going to need to bring that survey to a higher standard. And I'll present that to you when we're not on camera.
So we're going to be discussing, you want to bring this back for budget?
Those surveys?
I mean, no, this is a budget issue.
I'm prepared to go forward because the sensitivity of the timeline is to go forward. And I came prepared on a decision point because we had discussion since August in various ways.
Yeah.
So,
but you would like this board to make a decision tonight?
That's for your decision.
Exactly. And to the board, we are getting ready to go into the beginning of budget discussions, and this would be an issue for us to discuss then. I remind the board that would be the proper thing to do. And with that, I'll close.
Randy?
With Allied only willing to have a 3-year contract, and it's up in July, I think he needs to get moving on these 12 to see that he can get them done, which would mean approving the money tonight.
But this is why we have budget sessions. This is, we talk about budgeting with since we have the police authority of taxation, we are the number one authority in that regard.
I absolutely agree.
And this is very important, that these issues, and some of the issues I raised tonight, just on the fly, there'll be other issues coming about.
I absolutely agree, but if this goes into a 3-year contract, then what we're talking about, 12 more deputies, doesn't even need to happen.
But we're forcing ourselves into a false decision-making process, deadline, somewhat like the schools, which may have been more real to some of you, but this has a lot more fluidity. Nothing has to be done tonight. I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I don't speak out of turn, but I think Commissioner Deathridge, the deadline's being driven by the time it takes to recruit, train, and hire
I get that.
12 SROs.
I get that, but we are talking about a lot of money yet again. And we do have a budget process, we do set policy, and we perform oversight. And we're getting way far afield from that right now by putting money in this little pot and that little pot, and you can't touch it unless it's for this or that. And this, we've got to start having fiscal control of what happens up here, because if everything turns south, you guys are going to be raising taxes or cutting employees very quickly and very fast.
Commissioner Deathridge, as the elected sheriff here, I'm telling you that you're not taking the same risk you took. I'm ready to get this moved for the Beaufort County citizens, and if you have a decision point tonight, make it. If you're not, then vote on it not to. But I need to go to work on recruiting. I need the most competitive package here to recruit for Beaufort County. I'm here to protect Beaufort County, and that's where I'm at tonight. All right, I appreciate your consideration. If you got any questions, I'll be answering.
Yes, and I appreciate your position. I mean, you are an executive. You get things done, and we appreciate that, but we are the taxing authority for Beaufort County. That's an awesome responsibility as well. And I think this is an issue that needs to be discussed further, at least in budget sessions. Maybe as we get closer and we hash some of this stuff out we're just being presented with tonight, we can get to a point that, some of us could make that decision. But I think this board would be remiss here in December making a decision to obligate a future board to millions of dollars more than we're spending now. And that's on a per annum basis. Anita?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to reiterate the financial impact we're talking about here and what we're looking at doing. So currently, we're directing $1,064,248 to the schools to provide funds for a contracted SRO service. $600,000 of that is coming directly from the county. $400,000 is passing from the state to the schools to make up the $1,064,000. And the schools are putting in 20 of their own. So that's the $1,064,000. We're talking about taking that money, instead of paying it to the schools for the contract, the county would get a $400,000 grant from the state. The county would not allocate the $600,000 to the schools. We'd keep the $600,000. So all we're really asking for is the additional cost of the $49,541. That's the actual net budget impact.
That gives me the commitment to go ahead.
To fund the FTEs.
Go ahead and recruit, get deputies put in the training. We can go ahead and budget them in. I cannot recruit if I don't have a line item to recruit them into. And that's the hangup. And I totally respect your next 30 days, but you're squeezing the blood out of the timeline I've got on the reverse planning from July to date, to run them through, for one, the recruiting, the field training officer, and don't let it slip by you. These will be certified SRO. These are deputies who are not recruits. These are 1 year seasoned and potentially more years seasoned deputies that have to retrain and go back through our FTO program of 16 weeks. So there is a madness to this getting this timeline.
Okay, John has a question.
So the SRO training is 16 weeks.
My FTO program, once they're selected and hired.
Okay, once they're hired, is 16 weeks. How long is the SRO program?
That is a week.
Okay. How many of your deputies right now are SRO trained? Do you know? Two? Okay. So you're not going to be in a position to really move those into the, I mean, you could, but you're not going to have sufficient numbers by any stretch to start even.
Not on today, but in July, I told you I will.
How many unfilled positions you got now?
6.
6?
Yes. And that's.
I'm impressed that you've gone from 6 back to 12, and I trust that you can do it. And I'm ready to give you the ability to do it.
Thank you.
Because I do not want my name on a school that doesn't have security and say I'm responsible for it. I'm not prepared to stand in front of the media and say why I voted against having security at this school.
Okay, Jerry? Well, I see this differently. First of all, what is the succession plan? I mean, everybody keeps saying, well, the contract ends in June. So if the contract ends in June and you don't have the people, what then?
What then? So there will be a periodic, talk about the succession, there'll be a periodic health. We'll come back to the table in February and April, and I can give you a report at each of those. And if if things are going unsuccessful, we still have a fallback plan because the contract's in place now. I mean, I'm just thinking as a realistic, we still have it. But you're asking me to put doubt on what I'm telling you.
Well, no, I'm not asking you to put doubt on it. I'm asking you to clarify what you are doing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking you to do.
I clarify that.
And what you have done is not clarified anything with me. You have 6 vacancies right now, and now you're asking for 12 more officers.
I'm not asking, Commissioner.
That's 18 total.
Let me remind each one of you, I'm not asking. I'm providing a commitment to get this SRO program back where it needs to be. So you brought up the 6 vacancies. Well, we're talking about apples and grapes. So for me to go out and recruit for a deputy, or recruit someone who's just graduated BLET, that's that vacancy in my patrol. That's one that has not been through any FTO programs, that's not got their general certification. A SRO by statute requires a 12-month requirement to go through the sheriff's standards and be given their general certification. Whereas the deputies that you're asking me about, that's going out and finding the demographics of a new recruit, someone who's got the fear of going through BLET. I'm looking at telling you I'm going out and finding seasoned, 1 to 2 year.
Well,
You're wishing me well, don't you?
Yeah.
I know. And you know,
I just find it hard that from now until June, that you're gonna find 12.
I get it.
So that brings this into it. Let's say you don't get it and we're getting close to a July, but let's say we have 10. What happens to the 10 that we have and we're getting ready to go into a 3-year contract with Allied? So now we've got all of these people and we're double paying.
Law enforcement is, and that's a law enforcement investigative question. That's a fluid question I'm gonna give you the best answer. I'm telling you I can accomplish the 12, and it's a fluid situation. If it doesn't happen, then it's what it is. I don't have any other explanation, but I can tell you, can I Houdini 12 up?
Yeah.
It's going to take the leadership, and it's going to take the management.
But now we're ended up paying a ton of money, and the past sheriff, this is the gift that just keeps on giving. I mean, this is really, it could become a mess.
It could be.
Okay, questions?
I understand where the sheriff's coming from, and I'm gonna be up front and right to the point. I'm not ready to vote for this.
Okay.
But the question I have too many unanswered things. You said you can get 12. I'm gonna trust that you get 12. I'm gonna trust that you get 18 because that's what you need.
It's gonna take.
I'm gonna trust that you get 18 because that's what you need. But the only problem that I have with this whole scenario here is I'm wondering tonight if Cheeseman will stand to that podium and say he told you to move forward. That's the question. If he says do it, I'd vote for it.
Yeah.
But I hadn't heard anyone say that he told you to go forward. Not even him.
Okay.
And I'm ready. I mean, I want you to be back in the schools, but I don't want you to put yourself in a bind.
Right.
And we're here to support you. I will never stand in the way of doing what's right by you.
All right.
Politically, a friend, we've been friends for 40 years plus.
Right.
But I hate to see you let somebody push you in a position that even don't sound reasonable.
Well, I can assure you he's not pushing me, but y'all take a vote on it, and I have presented myself to tell you what I'm capable of doing, and y'all make the vote.
But let's just make sure, stay right there, there's questions.
I got something, two, three things. Number one, Commissioner Walker has laid on the table that somehow if we don't vote the way he wants to tonight, that we're not gonna have security in the schools. That's false. You're still gonna have security in the schools. We still have the people that are providing security now, so don't get carried away that if we don't vote the way he wants you to, you're not gonna have security in schools. That is not true. And I have I'm choosing my words carefully. Have we received any official communication from the school board that they are for or against this?
I have not.
Nobody else, manager's not here, but I don't know of any.
Well, if
yeah.
my word counts, yes, they have told me to go forward.
The school board has voted and told you.
Now, you changed your question, so.
No, that's it.
You didn't say voted. You said that they said
The Sheriff's Board's act as a board.
You said.
People on the board telling you to do something.
They're not telling me that I stand here tonight. You don't say I'm up here with nobody.
Well, you need a vote from the school board. You need them to communicate.
But I can tell you what's happening to Beaufort County, and I'm glad that this is live, because I'm saying it's either you go forward with it, choose to make a decision, go forward. If you don't make a decision, then we'll just I'm gonna keep showing up and demonstrating my willingness to do what I promised on my campaign, that I came and worked with for y'all and the school board. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm good.
And you've said it enough. We understand your position. Just remember also that when the lease is up, if you assume the lease to pull it out, we got a $700,000 outlay. Now, admittedly, there's an amortization in here, but amortization and cash flow are two different things. We're going to pay $700,000, and we don't do really, government is not amortized like the private industry is, so it's not the same game. So you're going to have a big expenditure at the end of that period of time.
I'm assuming you're referring to the vehicle outlay, the outlay for vehicles?
You got, let's see, you got equipment, wait a minute, you've got vehicle depreciation, 7 years.
Right, so I believe, Chief Deputy, you said you didn't need 10 or 12 vehicles. I think you said you could use a lot less than that.
Right now, as it stands, we probably do 6 equipped vehicles. In the future, though, we would need 6 more to complete the 12.
Right. So you got that liability.
Which you're already paying $1,400 a month for the last, so just calculate that.
Just to reiterate what I said, I want to be here for you, and I mean that sincerely. But I would hate, and I have my reasons to say what I'm saying, I would hate for you to stand here tonight, and 3 weeks from now in January, it don't materialize what we was told tonight, and we done spend $1.1 million. If the school board would say to me, we're gonna get rid of Allied, I'm not gonna send you to a Friday night gunfight with a stick. I'm gonna give you what you need, and that's the only dilemma that I have right now. And I said you need 18. If we give you the money, that's up to you how you get them. I don't care how you get them. If we give you the money for what you need, that's up to you. You was elected to do that. And I don't want you to go out of here thinking that I'm against you.
No.
But I've been here long enough to know that when stuff get gritty, I ain't saying that.
Let me, I think where we're at, and you can let me know. I would hate to vote tonight and totally turn this down. Before, when things got upside down, I think it was a lack of working together, the different entities. I think we're going to be in a better position if these commissioners will allow, one of us or 3 of us to meet jointly to try to get some feedback.
No, I'm not going to do that. No, sir. It didn't work out the last time, Frank. You and the special crew went over and started making deals in the back room. We're not doing that. This is going to be done in public so the public can see what's going on. The school board can vote on public just like everybody else.
Well, are you asking for the school board to pass a resolution saying they're in support of this?
Yeah.
Moving.
I don't think we should do anything until the school board
Okay.
says what they...
But then it just comes right back to us because the money's coming from us. But I just don't like the all or nothing round here we got going on.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a recommendation?
Okay.
I would like to say something too.
All right.
Okay. Personally, and I alluded to this earlier, I'm going to want to see the school board take some initiative and put together a public safety plan and bring it to the commissioners and talk to us about it. The sheriff needs to be here. He could intimate what he thinks is wise and maybe give them some guidance. We could give them some guidance. But right now, this is kind of a dump the money and run, as Hood likes to say, situation. And then if you don't do it, as Randy said, you got to go talk to the media. Randy, what media? Come on. I mean, you're going to stand up and say, I'm not in favor of supporting the kids. I will argue with a school safety plan, it would be better than having 1 or 2 SROs at every school. Right now, we don't have a school safety plan that I'm familiar with. Now, you guys just voted on $10 million, and we only knew the particulars
in the last, well, we only knew some of the particulars, an infinitesimal amount of the particulars in the last month or two. Now, we need to know some stuff about this. I mean, I care about the safety of our children as much as anybody, but I want it done right. I want to see how you're going to lock down those doors and how you're going to do it. Is it being done? Is it being done right? And then I want to know if there is anybody that wants to be armed. Can we do it? It is happening now across the state of North Carolina in many forward-thinking counties. Now, this is not a forward-thinking county. I get that. But other counties are doing it. So we need to get on the same page with what is meet and right and smart. And I'll finish. I'm done.
Okay. I don't have a problem with the chairman and vice chairman. We'll talk. This is important stuff we're talking about. Not going to Mr. Sheriff. But I don't have a problem with you. You're not going out there and cutting the deal for me, because even whatever you do, you got to come back and we vote on it. So I don't have a problem. We need to stay, like you said, we need to get ahead of it. But I just hate, and if Mr. Chief, Dr. Chief were here tonight, I asked him the same question. If he said yes, I raise my hand right now. But I don't have a problem with that. Y'all, whoever you, the chairman, vice chairman, meet with that chair, vice chair, and the superintendent and Brian.
Y'all come back with 4, meet, and we'll go forward.
State law requires the board vote in public. State law requires us to vote in public. Now, the secret backroom government that I've been fighting for 27 years needs to stop, and that's what's going on right here. I'm not sending some emissary on this particular mission. There are certain special missions that you send somebody who has special expertise, like when I went to Raleigh for you and got the law changed on stormwater in the legislature, because I have some expertise at it. But this is a board. We're all equal, and this board needs to act as a board, and the school board needs to act as a board, and stop having closed sessions, because I've been very concerned for some time about the items they cover in closed session and call it legal and legitimate. It's not. What they're doing is not.
Well, just like you have expertise on stormwater, Commissioner Langley have expertise on law enforcement, 30-year man. I still stick by what I said, to expedite the time, to have the chairman, the vice chair, to meet with the chair and vice chair, and they're not taking a vote. You're not making a vote. You're bringing back information.
Well, let's cut your mic. Anita, you had a comment.
I had a suggestion that maybe we could table this for tonight. I understand that you feel like we put the cart before the horse because we're asking for a vote from this board before the school board has officially voted. Honestly, I was moving forward with an analysis because I thought there was a consensus at the October joint meeting that everybody agreed that if deputies could get back in the schools, that would be best, and everybody agreed to that. But I completely understand the desire for an official vote from the school board first, so if they have their December meeting and vote on that, and we come back in January and you take your vote, would that allow you, Sheriff, the time you need moving forward to get your plan in place if they so choose for deputy SROs?
Yeah, and then you can tell us if you got the, 6 that you need.
I'm not going to tell you if I got 2, 3. I'm going to give you the 12 when I told you.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, they're meeting, Gary. When is your next meeting? Is it next Tuesday? Why can't we have let them make a decision and give us guidance, and they vote, the whole board, and then we can have a special called meeting to discuss it, to keep it quicker, on a better time frame. Is that fair enough?
That's good.
Well, we can't require the school board to vote. What if they do a no action? What if they just decide to sit there?
Well, then if they do that, we won't have a special call meeting. But if they meet and it's on the agenda and they have a vote, then we'll have a special call meeting, with this being the only item. Okay?
I'll be present.
And I would like to see the resolution from the school board emailed to me before you do the special call meeting, the actual resolution the school board does.
Well, it's the chairman's prerogative to call the special called meeting once we get the resolution and we know it's passed, so.
I'm not walking into a meeting.
I'll make that call.
I'm not walking into a meeting where you flash some secret document on me that's a public document that I'm supposed to have as a commissioner. All I'm asking for is respectful treatment as a commissioner, and you are denying that once again, sir.
Well, I think you and I have already been at it enough tonight. I will tell you that I take my job very serious, and you can talk about how incompetent and dumb I am, but I am smarter than you are, so you just suck it up.
You use that word. Thank you for describing yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm entitled to know what a special call meeting is for before it's called, the details of it, and so is the public. And you need to learn your job because you are stupid and dumb if you don't know that.
I was honored to be here tonight to present.
The special call meeting, we have to, correct me, we have to state what the purpose is. We're already saying what that would be. And we will, if we have that document, every commissioner will get the document.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to add something. I don't mean to drone on, but this is a serious issue for me. And I won't vote for anything unless I know there's going to be the school putting together a serious public safety plan that's going to include a lot more than seeing how many people we can hire and how many cars we can give them. If they're not serious enough to allay my concerns and the concerns of many other people that I represent, then I'm not going to vote for this because I don't think they're serious enough.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you would, please allay that to the school board. Take this seriously.
Gary's right here. Thank you for it.
Gary is not the school board. Gary's one member of the school board sitting out in our audience. He doesn't speak for the school board.
He can relay it. Okay. Thank you for coming, Sheriff Hammonds.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your service to the county. Have a good night.
Thanks. Okay, the next item is the, Katie, is the commissioners' meeting schedule for 2024.
Yes, sir, you have in your agenda books the recommended dates. They are with the exception of September, every date is the first Monday, and I'm just going to say that, but January 8th is actually the second Monday.
I have a conflict on the 25th and the 26th of January. I'm already obligated for the North Carolina Association County Commissioners Subcommittee, steering committees.
Okay, I'll get with the county manager tomorrow and try and find some extra dates. Those are for our planning retreat.
Okay.
So I'll talk with him tomorrow about those two dates and see if we can get those changed.
To raise an issue about the planning retreat, it's a waste of time for me. You come over here and you sit and you listen and you hear a lot of stuff presented. And then you go into a budget meeting and everybody says, well, you heard that at the planning retreat, just like we heard today that you heard that at the school board meeting. And so it's already been discussed and you know all about it and you don't have any choice but to vote for it. You know, I move that we do away with the planning retreat and just have budget sessions. Add 2 days to the budget sessions and get it over with. The planning retreat is a waste of time, and it's presented as a kind of a subterfuge is the best way I know to put it. We're presenting things to you, but we're not telling you all about it. We're not telling you all the details. You're supposed to know all of that, and then it comes up in the budget. I move we do away with the budget retreat.
Second, and then you got your deal taken care of, Frankie.
Would you take a friendly amendment to that?
What?
Have the budget retreat as the plan, and them that want to come, them that don't, let them stay home.
No, I wouldn't. That's not a friendly, that defeats the purpose of doing away with it altogether.
Four of us might want to come.
Okay, we got a motion. All those in favor of doing away with the planning session altogether, please raise your right hand. Okay, all those in favor of having it again, raise your right hand. Okay, so you're going to find some dates.
I still need a vote on the calendar, though.
Well, one more thing on the calendar, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Why can't we move the Labor Day meeting? We're meeting the day after Labor Day. And everybody's been out in the heat and sun and sunburned and tired. And so now you're coming to a commissioners meeting. Why don't we just move it ahead a week
or a few days and not put ourselves through that.
Well, if we go, yeah, is it the night?
The next following Monday would be September 9th.
The 9th, okay. Everybody agreeable to make that change?
I am.
Okay. All right, we need a motion to approve the calendar for our monthly meeting.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor of those monthly meeting dates, raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. And I started to say Anita. Katie, will you explain the committee that each one of us is on, or?
As with every year, there are some boards and committees that you guys serve on, that you're volunteered to serve on, and some are actually statutorily required. You have a list in front of you of who was on the boards last year, and I'm open to any changes, or I have not heard from any of you as to whether you wanted to be on a board or changes or anything like that.
Any reaction to the list?
I have a question. I haven't had a chance to send you an email, but I haven't had a chance to look at my emails. Is there on this green lamp, that's a voluntary board. The commissioners have not mandated it as a board. That's strictly a voluntary. Okay.
Okay, and one other comment, the Vidant Hospital Board, you know now the name change is ECU Health. Anyone want to change? Okay, I entertain a motion that we approve the list that we have here for board and committee meetings. Motion and second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. The next item we have is Commissioner Hood Richardson, the Register of Deeds budget compliance.
Well, this continuing thing with the Register of Deeds, I'm not giving up on this. This is a big issue for the welfare of the citizens of Beaufort County. And I want to make it perfectly clear, I'm not opposed to electronic recording of these items. What I'm saying is that is the most risky way that we can record our official documents. I'm saying let's record it electronically. I love using it. But let's also have the hard copy recording. And I'm going to point out some things in this little statement that I'm going to read that you as commissioners may not have realized. Let me get my glasses. I won't keep you here long because all I'm going to do is read this, get it into the minutes, and that'll take care of it. I am not opposed to e-recording documents by the Register of Deeds. I am opposed to relying on e-recordings as the only method of filing. Keeping the vital information on hard copy has worked for hundreds, if not thousands of years. E-recording has been useful for only about 20 years. All e-recording depends on is the uninterrupted availability of electricity and special equipment. You have to access this to access records. Because of this, hard copy books should be the primary way of recording, with e-recording as the backup. The new unelected and inexperienced Register of Deeds took it on herself to stop recording hard copies without the approval of the Board of County Commissioners. The laws of North Carolina are clear that the Board of County Commissioners is responsible for the care of these records because they are important to maintain our way of life. There is no state law that allows the Register of Deeds to act without the approval of the Board of County Commissioners. And I refer you to the Commissioner's Handbook. You need to read that and see what the Register of Deeds is supposed to be doing rather than what she tells you she's supposed to be doing. Statements about the lack of available space are false. There is space available at this time for at least 8 more years of hard copy recording. The Board of Commissioners has had discussions about providing additional space beyond the 8 years. Carolyn Garris' reliance on the Institute of Government and the Secretary of State for her authority are pipe dreams. The Secretary of State provides archive space and sets uniform filing standards across the entire state. The Institute of Government consists of lawyers at Chapel Hill. They provide advice about government law. Neither has stated or referred to law that empowers the Register of Deeds to act without the approval of the Board of County Commissioners. Carolyn Garris violated the law when she failed to follow the budget law approved by the commissioners through the end of June of 2024. She again violated the law when she disposed of records, 7 truckloads, entrusted to the Register of Deeds without first obtaining approval of the Board of County Commissioners. She further violated the law when she admitted that not filing hard copies was easier and less expensive than e-recording. She filed a false budget request for funds she did not intend to use. She is misappropriating county funds by maintaining a bloated payroll. What that means is, if it's easier and takes less time, she's got people on the payroll that we were paying to do the hard copies, and she has not reduced her payroll, nor has she budgeted to do that. So there are several violations here, and Board of County Commissioners are responsible for this, and I would suggest that you guys at our next meeting figure out how we're going to fix this problem.
Did you have a comment?
Yes, sir, I sure do.
Yes.
I just want to congratulate our Register of Deeds on being certified by the North Carolina statutes. And she passed her certification on yesterday or today, and I just want to congratulate you.
Other comments?
I got one. Yeah, my ongoing position on this matter is very simple. It will remain this. It is incumbent upon the commissioners to require that we record all precious documents in as many processes as possible, stored in as many locations as feasible.
Yes. Hey, John.
Commissioner Richardson, you made multiple accusations about violating the law, and I'm not sure which attorney you're getting your advice from. And I do know that you're, you know, got your bachelor's of science degree, and you're a scientist, and you're an engineer, but to the best of my knowledge, you're not a lawyer. We've had multiple documents from both our attorney and from the school of government that she's not violating the law. And I think it's just ridiculous that we continue on this process. I think that we ought to vote today on your request that all these documents be recorded in hard copy. Because you told us that when that burnt, you said thousands of years, and yet you told us that when the Yankees came in and burned it, they lost all the records. Okay? There's a far greater chance of fire in that building over there with no water, and even if there was water, then there'd be all water damage, than there is of losing them in digital format.
I would suggest that the commissioners refer to their commissioner's handbook and that they read the description. Is about 4 pages in there about the Register of Deeds, so you can see what your authority is versus the Register of Deeds authority, and that is what the issue is here. And it's a budget issue. The law has been violated, and you can talk about me and a lawyer. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand the law. And you don't have to, nobody has said to you that she hasn't violated the law. Show me a document that says in plain language that the Register of Deeds is in compliance with the law and has not violated the law.
She gave us.
Oh yeah, she gave it to you, but you.
Well, so did our county attorney.
I haven't seen it and said that way from the county attorney. I want to see it said that way from the county. Would you send me an email that says she is in compliance with the law and that there's not a problem?
Sir, I've not done a check on her, on what she does. She does her job as far as I know. We've done a hard recording recently, last several days, last week. We are told that coming up very soon, there's going to be state law that's going to say you're going to do an e-filing period. Yeah. Well, it's going away.
No, it is bad for the public because when it's writing on an electron, if there's no power, you've got no information, and you have to have special equipment.
If your legislature says this is the law, That's where it's going to be.
We, as a board of county commissioners, decided this stuff would be hard copied. And you, sir, are not willing to certify that she's in compliance with the law. That's all I need.
Let me refer you to the agenda. The agenda item is the budget compliance discussion. I sent an email this morning to the chief financial officer and the county manager and says, is the register of deeds office out of budget? Are they compliant? And the answer was they are compliant.
That's a different question than what
No, that's the agenda item.
No,
that's the agenda item.
Question than what we're talking about. She is spending the amount of money she said she was going to spend, but she violated the law when she did not use the money for what it was appropriated for. Keep going, guys. I got what I need.
Gentlemen,
I just want to say one more thing. This is not an either-or situation. Commissioner Ripholz, you were talking about, well, what happens if they burn? We're messed up. Then we have the electronic.
You have the archives.
Yeah, we have the electronic manifestation. That data's in the cloud, the data's on servers in many places. Now, having said that, okay, it's working this time. Having said that, what would happen if we have a guaranteeing effect, if we have an EMP, and you lose all of that? The grid is completely fried. You lose all that data, yet the hard copies were not burned. They're still there. At least we would have something to grab hold of when you lose all your digital manifestations.
So does
servers are not impervious.
So does the person that filed that document. Okay.
No, they don't necessarily always have it. No, that's not true.
It does matter.
That's neither. The document goes back to whoever filed it. Okay. What you're telling me now is opposite of the positions you've taken before, which is that government should only do for people what they can't do for themselves.
No.
Okay?
No. You're putting words in my mouth because you don't understand what the race to report state stipulates. Don't do that. That is dumb.
well, here again, I think we have chased this rabbit over and over again with basically the same thing. I'm going to make a motion that we take this off of the table for the next 6 months. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of taking this discussion off the record? I'm talking right now, please, okay? That we take it off the table, off of the agenda for the next 6 months? All those in favor?
Whoa, we're not going to have discussion?
Have some discussion.
Yeah, point of order.
Well, I think you guys have already discussed what your opinion is.
But, we're duly elected commissioners, and we have rules, and you're obligated to allow
And if you read your rules, this is a rule. This is a rule. We can take it off. We can take it off the table.
That's true, but we have a discussion period now.
All right. You want to let him go first?
Listen, actually,
go first.
Actually, your motion is in order. You disallowing our speech, our political speech, is out of order.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Allow you to speak.
Sure, no problem. I fought for it. I'll take a minute. I think you guys are making a mistake because you don't understand the race to record provisions, and you don't understand what happens in the cloud and the servers, the problems that could happen in the next 6 months that you would be duly responsible for not all the documents, because a lot of them are recorded in hard copy, but the ones that are not recorded this year, that would be a problem. There would be no way to signify exactly who owned what. Let me proffer this to you. What if somebody who's a friend of the court, a friend of society, maybe an elitist, the status quo benefits them, and they say, I own this piece of property over here. They didn't buy that piece of property, but they have a deed that's been given to them through fraudulent means. But they say, I own this piece of property. The man who actually owns the piece of property, he can't find his deed for whatever reason. And this other guy got his in the courthouse quicker. It's there. It's recorded. They get things going again. He moves quickly. He gets his in the courthouse. Therefore, by provisions of the North Carolina Race to Record State,
there would be some question as to who the ownership would be allocated to. Now, I don't trust courts. You may trust them, I don't. We've seen a lot of screwy things happen since 2008, and I do not trust attorneys, I do not trust judges, I do not trust prosecutors. If you do, God bless you. But we have enough information that this corruption is rampant and institutionalized in America today. So if you want to just put it all up for chance, fine. I don't want to. I want to hold everybody accountable.
Okay?
I've said a lot about this. What's going on is thoroughly illegal, thoroughly dishonest, thoroughly unethical by an inexperienced and ignorant register of deeds. And you guys are sitting here pushing her because she's your party chairman and you need her to get reelected.
Well, I think you've made your statement, and I think everybody knows. Does anybody else have any discussion on the motion that's on the floor?
I call the question.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those that are opposed. Thank you. We're down to the last item, the commissioner comments. Who wants to be first?
Me first. Mr. Chair, you made a statement earlier in this meeting about something that you wanted to do to help us move along with our decision on the SROs. The school that I went to and the policy that I took says that you can meet with anybody you want to meet with as long as you don't have a quorum. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it on the tape. Hope you can hear it. If you're Commissioner Langley want to sit down and meet with the school board chair and vice chair, that is public, that is your right. There is nothing that says you have violated ethics or anything else because you don't have a quorum. And on this board, you must have 4 to have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, let's get to the fine points of what Commissioner Booth said. What he's missing, the point is being authorized by the board for 1 or 2 people to do something is a whole lot different than volunteering with less than a quorum to sit down. They are apples and oranges. They are 2 entirely different things, and he knows that. So don't go over there representing me because I haven't authorized.
I wouldn't dare represent you. Okay.
Over this weekend, we had a huge solar storm hit Earth full on. It was called an N48. We survived.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we got a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Amen. Did you get that, Brandon?